This Honorable Senate for Friday, the 9th day of July, 2021 is called to order. And before beginning the business of the day, and two observations I make, I'm going to ask that we try. I know that today there was a particular difficulty, but we try to make a start a bit earlier. The staff are here to begin the Senate meetings at 10, and the support personnel are here at 10. So I'm going to ask all members to try and make an effort to make a punctual start. As I said, I know that today was a particular difficulty which will be explained at some time later. And last week I also neglected to bring to the attention of the Senate and offer condolences to the family of Sergeant Marlon Smith, who was assigned as a CPO to Minister Nigel Clark. But beyond that, he is or was someone who was known to many of us as diligent, highly intelligent young man, and his passing will be a loss to, of course, his family, to whom I ask that we communicate our condolences, but also to the constabulary force. I knew him, and he was a very personable young man, anxious to serve his country, and taken in tragic circumstances in a car accident while on duty in the parish of Trulon in some tragic motor vehicle accident. I would just ask that the clerk record our condolences in a missive to his family, and I take the opportunity also to offer our condolences to the police force, and in particular to the unit that he was assigned to at the time he was passing. I think it's still referred to as the Protective Services, Senator Samuda. So I would ask that be done. Senator Samuda, I don't know if you wanted to say something very briefly.
Thank you, Mr. President. The men and women of the Jamaica Constabulary Force work in the area of keeping us safe. The jobs that they undertake to ensure our safety, I think many of us don't fully grasp the strain and struggle that they go through and what they face in their day-to-day lives. The constabulary has had, I think, an emotional couple of weeks, and I think it's time, and I thank you for the opportunity, President, to use the beginning of this sitting for us to show a level of support and acknowledgement to their service, because the strain and the emotional stress is not easy. They've lost two of their members in recent weeks in very tragic circumstances. So I too, from this side, acknowledge the service of Sergeant Marlon Smith that we all knew very, very well, and thank him for that service, and extend our condolences to his family, his unit, the entire constabulary force. But I also use the opportunity, President, to acknowledge the service of Corporal Devon Thomas, who was murdered just over a week ago. And expressing condolences is never easy to the men and women who give of themselves, in many cases, give of their lives to make us safer. So I think it's appropriate just to acknowledge their service and to express our sympathies to the constabulary force and to assure them that they have the support of the Senate, and I'm sure both sides of the Senate. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Senator Samuda. Senator Bunting.
Thank you, Mr. President. The opposition also welcomes the opportunity to associate ourselves with the extension of these condolences to our police officers who have fallen recently. I well recall when I was minister, I think it was Julian Robinson's CPO who was murdered as he was returning home during that period of time. And I remember at the time going to the KPH, and we were there hoping against hope, and unfortunately he passed. But it really forces us to stop and appreciate the sacrifice that these, particularly the Protective Services Division personnel who often work very long hours following politicians up and down all over Jamaica and spend extended time away from their families, spend a lot of time on the road, in addition to whatever risks from criminal elements. They just literally being on the road so many hours, often driving the following vehicle, which is more challenging than the principal's vehicle. And I think it is really appropriate for us to use these moments to offer our sympathies to their families and to their colleagues, and also to just reflect on the stellar work they perform. I also include in these remarks Corporal Devon Thomas, who was murdered recently in Popine. He was off duty, but it was really a cowardly attack because they essentially ambushed an off-duty cop. And we also are reminded, I believe this was the second murder of a police officer this year. We've had many more over the years, but I think this was the second murder since the start of this year. And I spoke with the Police Federation, and his colleagues describe him universally as a fearless crime fighter, someone that the JCF and the country could be very proud of. And so we mourn with our families, colleagues, and all Jamaica, and we encourage members to redouble their efforts, notwithstanding the risks and the challenges, and also encourage the public to do whatever they can to support the members of the JCF as they serve, protect, and reassure. And that anyone with information, I don't believe, Minister Samuda, that the perpetrators of the murderers of Corporal Devon Thomas have yet been apprehended. And I'd encourage anybody, any member of the public who may have information in that regard that could assist in the investigation and eventual arrest and bringing those heinous criminals to justice. We encourage them so to do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I think that the Senate would approve if I were to direct the clerk to write to the families of both officers and just indicate to them that we had made note of their passing, their service to the country, and offered our condolences. Statements by ministers. Madam Minister, I understand that you will ask for the recommittal of this item to take a statement later on, which we will permit. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the Senate today are the following. Ministry paper numbers 46 and 47 of 2021 An annual report on audited financial statements of the National Irrigation Commission Limited for the years 2018-2019 and 2019-2020. Third, annual report of the Integrity Commission for the year 2020-2021. Statement J, statement of receipts and payments of the contingency funds of the Accountant General's Department for the year 2013-2014 and 2014-2015. Report of the Joint Select Committee on its deliberation on the bill entitled the National Identification and Registration Act 2020 and guidelines for hybrid meetings of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. It would be remiss of me not to call the members' attention to the last item specified by the clerk, guidelines for hybrid meetings of the Senate, which will or has codified the rules relating to members joining the Senate virtually. And it would also be remiss of me not to thank the clerk for her assistance, Ms. Curtis, and Ms. Douglas Beckford, who is the clerk to the committee, and the legal officer, Ms. Cunningham, and all the members of the Gordon House support staff that helped the preparation of these guidelines, and also members of the committee. It has taken some time, but it is before us now, and I urge members to read the guidelines and to comply with them when the issue of attending meetings virtually is sought. Bills brought from the Honorable House of Representatives.
The following is a message from the Speaker of the House of Representatives. To the Honorable Senate, I have the honor to advise the Honorable Senate that on the 6th day of July 2021, the House of Representatives agreed to the Senate amendments to a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Extradition Act to provide for the admission of evidence that would not otherwise be admissible under Jamaican law in the form of records of evidence of the case in extradition hearings and for connected matters. Signed, Marisa Dalrymple Philibert MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
And thank you very much. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with issues and you overlook or fail to do what is required in the circumstances for any number of reasons, but it completely, again, in dealing with my original remarks, it eluded me to, I should have mentioned and expressed the condolences of the Senate to Senator Scott Motley, who lost her nephew, who also happens, of course, to be the brother of Prime Minister Motley of Barbados. So, Senator Scott Motley, the condolences of all the Senate to yourself and your family. I know that your husband was particularly close to this gentleman, and we offer our condolences to your family, and through you, of course, to Prime Minister Motley. And once again, Madam Clerk, I would ask that you write appropriately, accept my apologies, Senator Scott Motley, and convey personally the condolences of all of us in the Senate to your Barbadian family, or Bajan family, I think is the right phrase. Thank you very much. Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions, motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to the sitting of the Senate, motions for leave to introduce bills, the presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained, public business. Minister, you intend to proceed with?
Good morning, Mr. President, and thank you. Yes, it is intended to proceed with the Casino Gaming Amendment Act and then to recommit the statement by ministers.
No contribution to the State of the Nation today?
Mr. President, an amended agenda had been sent out reflecting only the casino gaming.
Thank you. Senator Sinclair.
Thank you, Mr. President, and allow me to start once more by expressing apologies for the late start this morning and my assurance that it was in fact unavoidable and in the interests of national service. So my apologies to members of this House and of course the technical team and staff who would have been here ready to start on time. Mr. President, I rise to present the Casino Gaming Amendment Act 2021. Members of this Honourable Chamber would recall that the Casino Gaming Act 2010 was brought into force on June 3rd, 2010 to facilitate Jamaica's entry into and subsequent regulation of the casino gaming sector. One of the principal objects of the Act is to encourage the establishment of integrated resort developments by licensing these developments to offer casino gaming as part of a mix of various tourism amenities and facilities available to the guests of hotels in such developments. The Act defines an integrated resort development as one consisting of a mix of various tourism amenities and facilities in the same precinct, including but not limited to hotels, hotel rooms, villas, casinos, attractions, sporting facilities, entertainment facilities, service centres and shopping centres. Mr. President, the proposed amendments before us today are aimed at making changes to the requirements which a prospective investor must fulfil and of which the Minister responsible for finance must be satisfied in order to declare an integrated resort development to be an approved integrated resort development. So, Mr. President, for context once more, under the Principal Act, the Minister responsible for finance may make an order declaring an integrated resort development, and if I might just refer to them as an IRD after, to be an approved IRD. And this will enable the developer to then make an application to the Casino Gaming Commission for a license to be issued under the Act to operate a casino within the resort development. Before making an order, Mr. President, under the current Principal Act, the Minister must have certain assurances, and currently Section 9, subsection 3 of the Act provides that the Minister must not approve an IRD or make an approved IRD order unless he is satisfied that, 1, upon completion, the development will be comprised of one or more hotels, providing in total at least 2,000 hotel rooms, and that of those 2,000 hotel rooms, at least 1,000 are required to be available before the casino operations start. And furthermore, and of note, is that the room requirements are for new rooms and therefore exclude rooms already in existence or under construction prior to the submission of an application by the developer. So these will be adjusted somewhat as I am about to explain. So it was determined, however, Mr. President, that a review of the regime should be conducted. No doubt an appropriate step, considering that the Act came into force some 10 years, 11 years ago almost, and further considering that the tourism industry must remain competitive and it must evolve. Furthermore, the government is very sensitive to the economic fallout caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the tourism industry in particular suffered a decline in the region of 80%. And members will appreciate that that is a devastating blow to persons employed in the sector and, of course, to the company's revenues. Mr. President, each Minister of Government is actively working through his or her ministry to find innovative ways to help Jamaica to recover better and stronger. And the Minister with responsibility for finance recognized the timeliness of the review of the Casino Gaming Act with a view to seizing the opportunity to help tourism recover stronger. Analysts have in fact forecast that the global casino gaming market will expand at a compound annual growth rate of 9 and 11% during the forecast period of 2017 to 30. So we are still within the window. Mr. President, subsequent to the review, the government took the policy decision to amend the Principal Act. The amendments will reduce the room requirements and allow for rooms already under construction prior to the making of the application to be included in the projected number of rooms to be available. And this change to include the rooms under construction is to ensure that investors who may have already begun construction of a property and subsequently determined that they intend to include elements of an integrated resort development, that they wouldn't automatically have been barred from qualifying to apply for their property to be so designated. So rooms already in existence, however, would continue to be excluded. Mr. President, further amendments to be made to the regime include provisions which stipulate that a certain number of the total rooms to be available on completion are to be designated and constructed as luxury hotel rooms, and that luxury hotel rooms are defined in the amendments. The amendments also establish a timeline within which all the facilities that comprise an integrated resort development are to be constructed, and also provide for a sanction for the failure to comply with the prescribed timeline. And they also set a requirement for a minimum capital investment to be made by the developer. So although we're reducing on one hand, we're also establishing thresholds on the other to create a balanced adjustment to the regime to stimulate activity. Mr. President, the bill comprises 5 clauses. Clause 1 sets out the short title construction of the bill, which is cited as the Casino Gaming Amendment Act 2021, and it must be read and construed with the Casino Gaming Act and all amendments thereto. Clause 2 seeks to amend Section 2 of the Act to provide a definition for the term luxury hotel room, which means private hotel accommodations in an approved integrated resort development, and will include facilities, furnishings, amenities, and services superior to other accommodation available at the development. And these luxury hotel rooms, Mr. President, are to meet size specifications and minimum construction costs as may be prescribed by the Minister. And I'd like to emphasize the requirement for superior services, which will require more training for higher level services and therefore not only more jobs, but better jobs. Mr. President, Clause 3 provides a number of amendments to Section 9 of the Act. Recall that it is under Section 9 that the Minister has the power to make an order to declare an IRD an approved integrated resort development. Clause 3, paragraph A amends Section 9, subsection 1 by providing that the Minister may not only by order declare the IRD to be an approved one, but that he or she may also prescribe size specifications and minimum construction costs of luxury hotel rooms proposed to be constructed in an approved integrated resort development. This amendment, Mr. President, ensures consistency between the Minister's powers under Section 9 and the elements set out in the definition of luxury hotel room. Clause 3, paragraph B, subparagraph 1, amends Section 9, subsection 3, paragraph A of the Act, of the Principal Act, providing that the IRD, when completed, must be comprised in the aggregate of at least 1,000 associated hotel rooms, including hotel rooms under construction, but excluding hotel rooms already existing. So if you have built it already, it cannot be counted in your aggregate of 1,000. But if it is under construction and you change your plans and the designations, the size, the minimum prescribed requirements can be met, you can build upon that and qualify for an approved IRD order if the circumstances apply. So, Mr. President, this amendment also provides that of the 1,000 hotel rooms required to be available, 500 of those rooms are to be designated as luxury hotel rooms. So you can't just have 5, build 5 luxury hotel rooms and say that you're applying for an IRD, you must have 500 luxury rooms as part of any IRD in order to qualify for approved status. Mr. President, this reflects the policy intent of the government that the requirement for an investor to provide a minimum of 2,000 hotel rooms be reduced, and furthermore that the change to include rooms already under construction has been determined to be a far more practical approach to ensure that investors who may have started construction can adjust and be accommodated in appropriate circumstances. Clause 3, paragraph B, subparagraph 2, amends Section 9, subsection 3, paragraph B, to provide that of the 1,000 associated hotel rooms that are to be available for occupancy prior to the date of operation of any casino, that 500 are to be luxury hotel rooms. So this is where that amendment is to be found. And again, this is to maintain consistency between Section 9.3, paragraphs A and B of the Act. Clause 3, paragraph B, subparagraph 3, amends Section 9.3 by inserting provisions which stipulate that the construction is to be completed in accordance with the size specifications and minimum construction costs prescribed, and that a minimum capital investment of $500 million United States dollars has been acquired by the developer for the establishment, operation, and maintenance of the proposed integrated resort development. So they must prove that they have financing in place of $500 million United States dollars in order to be considered for the approved status. And Mr. President, further, that the construction of the integrated resort development is to be completed and fully operational within 3 years after the date of commencement of any casino gaming activity at the integrated resort development. Such construction must be in accordance with the design specifications approved by the relevant local authority. Mr. President, Clause 3, paragraph C amends Section 9.4 by providing that the Minister may specify by order the size specifications and the minimum construction costs of the designated luxury hotel rooms in the IRD. And again, this is for consistency. Mr. President, Clause 3, paragraph D, amends Section 9 by inserting a new provision, a new subsection 6, by stipulating that the Minister may, by order, subject to affirmative resolution, amend the amount of the minimum capital investment specified in subsection 3D. So that $500 million, if it changes significantly in value, and if the market conditions require that that be adjusted, then it permits that amendment of the bill will not be required. The Minister may do so by order. Clause 4 amends Section 11, subsection 2 of the Act by providing consistency with the provision at the proposed new Section 9.3e, that all elements of the approved design of the approved IRD are to be fully operational within 3 years after the date of commencement of any casino gaming activity at the integrated resort. It's important to note, Mr. President, that the Minister has the power to revoke or amend an IRD if all the elements of the approved design plan have not been completed or are not fully operational within 3 years of the commencement of any gaming activity at the development. So the Minister can revoke or amend such order if he is not satisfied that the failure to complete was due to circumstances beyond the control of the approved developer and that there is reasonable prospect of commencing the construction or operation, as the case may be, within a reasonable time. Clause 5 of the bill stipulates that the provisions of the Amendment Act will not affect any order which was made under Section 9.1 of the principal order prior to the coming into effect of this bill. Mr. President, tourism is one of the largest contributors to our economy, 31% of Jamaica's GDP in 2019, and it provides an estimated 350,000 direct and indirect jobs. Stimulating investments in integrated resource development is expected to strengthen Jamaica's competitiveness in the tourism industry and to bolster economic development through job creation, increased tax revenue, and additional demand for locally produced goods. The potential takes on even greater significance, Mr. President, in the context of our need to recover stronger. So the amendments which the government is seeking to make this morning are meant to enhance the regime and to strengthen its appeal to potential investors. Integrated resort developments and luxury hotel rooms in particular have enormous potential to diversify, expand, and enhance Jamaica's attractiveness and sought-after tourism product, while balancing the minimum thresholds on the government side to ensure that appropriate standards are maintained. Mr. President, in this context, I commend the Casino Gaming Amendment Act 2021 for this Honourable Senate's considerations and look forward to the debate. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let me state from the outset that what is now being proposed by the government as amendment to the Casino Gaming Act could possibly be described as, at least in my view and from my position where I stand, insufficient. And because of the well-needed review, I believe, that is needed in this all-encompassing, a bigger review, in my view, based on the importance of the legislation and, as the Minister states, the impact or the potential impact that this sector of the industry can have on Jamaica's economy. The fact is that the legislation is over 12 years old, as we've just been reminded. And so now the question is, what has changed in those 12 years to have taken us to this point? We know that in the recent year and a half, we've had the pandemic, but we've had 12 years, and then it would be interesting to understand what has changed significantly in the industry in order that we are making the two main changes that are being proposed. Having had the benefit of the preceding years to observe the legislation's practicality and efficacy, one would have thought that this experience would guide the government to propose amendments that were a bit more fair and balanced, with the interest of the industry, and especially of the tried and proven investors within the sector, foremost in their consideration. You see, Mr. President, in the period leading up to the 2010 passage of the Casino Gaming Act, there was a lot of consultation, robust consultation, not only in the tourism industry, but the wider community. So much so, and so intense were these discussions and consultations that there was insistence that the barrier to entry had to be set at a certain level in order to prevent certain persons who might be considered unsuitable from participating in the industry. Because there were concerns about enforcement of the requirements and the quantum of investments, concerns about the monitoring of operations, in addition to the broader guidelines. And the reason we know for some of these concerns is that gambling generally is considered high risk in terms of the potential for money laundering and counterterrorism. And so having what is perceived as a low barrier to entry could raise some concerns and making it too accessible. So for that reason, in addition to the outcry from various sectors across the society, we ended up with entry requirements that were a little too high for anyone to really take advantage of. Even for entities that were interested in the business of tourism, entities like former Palmyra or Bahia or Palladium, all of which had interest in casino and to have them part of their offerings. Bahia built and went on to build 1,200 rooms, Grand Palladium just over 1,000, but they had plans to add additional luxury rooms and a convention center. So really, based on where I sit, I am pretty happy to see the room requirement being dropped from the 2,000 to 1,000, as the minister outlined, because it has proven that the previous requirement, even with the best of intentions, did not suit all the various interest groups, was a bit counterproductive and did not lead to the investments that were proposed to happen. But my concern, Mr. President, is that the government seems to be approaching the amendments in a very sort of a particular way that makes me wonder if it is in response to any current developers, and therefore there might be a haste to reduce the numbers that to include those under construction. The minister pointed out in great detail that there were basically two categories of hotel rooms that could not be considered, those under construction and those that were already in existence. So now we're amending to only include those that are already under construction. Now, there's no doubt that the country craves investments, and within the ranks of our tourism industry, there are those who have been proven to be investors and have already walked the walk, have built the required number of luxury rooms, and have made appreciable dollar value investments in Jamaica. So the fact that the minister has the ability to amend the investment requirement, the capital requirement, one must look at those who have already invested and have invested significant amounts, possibly beyond the 500 million that has been laid out as the new requirements, that they ought to be given consideration because they have already invested in Jamaica. So by virtue of being fair and balanced, these investors, Mr. President, should be accorded appropriate amendment to the Act, the opportunity to participate in Jamaica's casino gaming subsector. So let us make a decision that would be required of the current investors in order that they can, in fact, take up this offer. They should not be left out in this opportunity. Mr. President, what, however, is critical to the implementation of any casino gaming regime is their country's ability to monitor the licensed players in the industry to ensure compliance and adherence to the rules. The minister just made mention of the Casino Gaming Commission, and if we're proceeding with amending to the point of attracting investors, one has to assume that there are some opportunities on the horizon. However, it was clearly stated in the Principal Act that the Casino Gaming Commission was the body that would be responsible for the review, for the monitoring, for the determination of the application and granting of license. So if we are to proceed at this point, we should have some word on the status of the Casino Gaming Commission, which is to play a critical role in this business of casino gaming. So I go back and I ask, the proposed amendments, which in section 9.3 states that, and the minister read it out already, but I repeat, the minister shall not make an order under subsection 1 unless he is satisfied as to the following matter, namely that the integrated resort development, when completed, will be comprised of one or more hotels providing in the aggregate at least 2,000 associated hotel rooms, excluding hotel rooms already in existence or under construction prior to the making of an application under Section 10. So I again ask, the proposed amendment in this section addresses 2 of the 3 elements, and it really makes me wonder why not all. The fact that the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons Minister states that the Act seeks to facilitate the diversification of the tourism industry, then if that is the case, then why aren't we making this diversification available to all who have proven themselves to Jamaica as worthy investors over the many years? We will concede that they agree that it's been 10 years since the development of this legislation, and it sends a very clear message that the legislation in its current form just did not work, and we agree that it needs to be overhauled. However, to come to this point with amendments that seem to only suit a few and maybe in particular one that is under construction right now, is rather questionable. So this should not be how we proceed as a country. There is no way that this could be seen as fair, but it instead raises questions. And so today I ask, why are we in such a haste to make only these specific amendments? If we are seeking to diversify again the product as stated, we must look at the entire Act. In fact, a part of the Act speaks right now to only having one IRD per resort area. And the Montego Bay Resort area, which really stretches from Trelawney to Hanover, is therefore being suggested should only have one IRD. Now, if we are looking to open up and diversify and get greater benefits from the industry, maybe now is the time to review whether we should stick to that part of the Act that says that only one IRD per resort area when Montego Bay measures 3 parishes as it stands. So I'm proposing to the government to look at that aspect of the Act and see about reviewing the requirements to have only one per resort area. I believe we must do whatever we're doing, we must get it right, rather than in a hurry, and cause for further questions to be raised because it seems unbalanced, or having another amendment in another year. Let's just slow down and get it right, because governance requires fairness and balance. We must always seek to ensure that we put in place what is best for the interest of all, and not just a few. We must ensure that legislation can stand without the need to question integrity. Casinos are not necessarily on their own the big pull that they were 20 years ago. Things have changed, and they have become more of amenities to what is offered in a hotel, because it is a part of the entertainment options for guests. And while meeting requirements, it should not be because there are only new investors being contemplated. I stand here today to suggest that we revisit the business of considering those who are already invested and have invested significant sums and have been good friends of Jamaica over these years. Mr. President, I close by saying that today's debate really should have been around a more detailed review. In 2010, there was leading up to the passage of 2010, massive island-wide consultations. I don't see why we can't do the same again. Things have changed, people have interest in it, and we think that Jamaicans must contribute to what is to be an industry that have had so many questions over the years. Let us not rush too fast to put in place changes that may just have to be changed again. So, like I said, a more robust consultation process was involved in 2010, and we're now in 2021. And with all that has changed, especially in the last year and a half, it is now time for a more fulsome review. Mr. President, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Senator Webby.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President and colleagues, I rise in support of the Casino Gaming Amendment Act 2021. As you heard before, the amendment being proposed by this bill will create what I described, Senator Allen, a comprehensive legislative and regulatory framework for the casino gaming industry. I think the expectations is that the amendments will stimulate the growth of the integrated resource development sector and the wider economy through large-scale foreign direct investments generated from these developments. These amendments, in my mind, colleagues and President, is really timely as the government works to begin to build back a stronger Jamaica that we can recover quicker after COVID-19. Mr. President, the global casino gaming industry, Senator Crawford, is big business. Big business. It was valued at US $457.5 billion. $457.5 billion in 2019. And the largest part of that segment goes to casinos, which was valued at $144.6 billion business. So it is significant, Mayor, very significant. As you are aware, and has been said before by Senator Allen and the Leader of the House, the Casino Gaming Act was passed over 10 years ago. And the truth is that we have not gotten one investment made in industry since that date. So this is an opportunity, colleagues, to find a solution that will attract investments to the country. And as the new buzzword is pivot in terms of change to attract new investments. Mr. President, based on the feedback that I have received personally from potential investors in the industry, one of the main issues with the current regime is that the requirements of the Act inhibit investments as they are too onerous compared to current global trends in casino development. I am therefore, as I've heard from Senator Allen, in support of the amendments to the legislation to make Jamaica more investor-friendly. One of the most significant amendments in my mind going through the amendments is the reduction of the room capacity requirements from 2,000 rooms to 1,000. I absolutely support that change. It should be noted, however, that of that 1,000 rooms, 500 will be luxury rooms, that attract a higher room rate, which means higher revenues for the government. There are investments in the pipeline awaiting the approval of these amendments and the anticipated request for proposal that will follow, and I'll speak to that later in my presentation. The truth is, colleagues, that integrated resort casinos have become the model for development of new entrants in the casino gaming industry, linking tourism, entertainment, media, and gambling. This model, as most of you would know, was actually introduced in the early 1990s with MGM Grand and continues to this day with mega resorts in Singapore, the Philippines, and other Asian countries. So it is really a situation where we have to make ourselves more competitive. Investors have many options, and we must place ourselves in a position to compete. And I believe the amendments to this act is doing just that. The truth is that we are playing catch-up because the industry is currently being disrupted by growth of online gaming as opposed to brick-and-mortar model casino gaming. So we have to, Senator Allen, we have to act now. I am happy to announce or to say to this honorable House as chairman of JAMPRO that we have four very strong candidates, very strong candidates to fulfill this requirement. And in fact, Senator Crawford, one called the president of JAMPRO this morning, Diane Edwards, asking what is happening. 2 of the 4 are brand new investors to Jamaica. So this is new capital, Senator Gale, coming in. 2 are new. And I want to tell you, colleagues, the brand names are world renowned that want to come on the business with Jamaica, 2. And two are already here, Senator Allen, willing to expand their business and establish casinos under the new requirements. So in fact, we have investors that have invested here already and are willing to invest more under the new regime. Mr. President, you know, when I call Singapore and the Philippines and an Asian country, and I think about Jamaica and the power of brand Jamaica, we're talking about world known for reggae music, Bob Marley, Shaggy, etc., etc. Our Jamaican food, jerk, and I'm not going to call any names. The Blue Mountain coffee, our rich culture and heritage, makes Jamaica, and the curry goat, and the curry goat, and the curry goat, it makes Jamaica, it makes Jamaica, Mr. President, with this additional, I describe Senator Sinclair as a product, as a package of experiences for our visitor, to be a very attractive destination with no casino gaming included. Another major benefit of casino industry brings to Jamaica is to diversify. You will understand that, the Jamaica tourism product, and promote brand Jamaica. The IRDs, I'm sure, and you've heard me say that we have 2 new investors, will introduce new tourists to the country via the facilities and activities, such as their marinas. Remember that Port Antonio investment, that was the whole concept behind it. The golf courses and other recreational facilities. So, we have to look on it as an overall package to the experience of being in Jamaica. The gaming, the reggae music, the cuisine, the golf courses. We have some of the best golf courses anywhere. My observation, and this is something that I feel very strongly about, is that the expansion of Jamaica tourism product through foreign investment in the casino gaming industry comes with an opportunity to increase our tourism linkages. It comes with an opportunity to increase our tourism linkages. Over the years, the level of foreign investment has not been proportionate to the realized levels of economic growth, to the high level of imports by foreign investors, particularly in tourism. The Tourism Linkages Council was really the main vehicle through which the government of Jamaica formally engages investors to buy goods and services from local suppliers, while JAMPRO seeks to introduce new investors to local suppliers as they establish themselves in Jamaica. Mr. President and colleagues, efforts have been made over many, many years to create linkages, and there have been some good results, but they have not been on a large-scale impact. Let us look at this. The 2015 tourism demand study, which you are familiar with, Senator Crawford, indicated that there were over 63 billion Jamaican dollars in imports that could have been supplied locally to the tourism industry. And that is 2015. I am absolutely sure, without seeing any study, that that figure has increased. And in fact, what we need to do is to do another study to see if we're moving in the right direction. Mr. President, I think it's important that I repeat that number, so that's clear. The tourism demand study done in 2015 indicated that there was over 63 billion Jamaican dollars in imports that could be supplied locally to the tourism industry. That is a big number. Mr. President, the Tourism Demand Study 2019 reported on the levels of import leakage. In simple terms, colleagues, import leakage is when revenue generated in Jamaica is spent in other countries to import goods. It's when we earn the revenue here, and after our revenue here, we use in our foreign exchange to bring in import goods. And I've already said to you, in 2015 it was 63 billion, and I'm guessing that it could be much more. Let us look at that study a little bit, and I'm putting it in the context of the huge opportunity that the 4 investors that I'm speaking about can bring to Jamaica in terms of providing jobs and farming for our citizens. Listen to this. Overall leakage in expenditure on agricultural products represented 16.5% of the value of the agricultural products demand in 2018, and that would include your goat. In the manufacturing sector, and manufacturing is the hub of any economy. Manufacturing is the hub of any economy. The import leakage in the manufacturing sector increased, Senator Scott Matley, from 33% of the total value of demand in 2014 to 41% in 2018. That again is supporting my analysis that we're probably moving in the wrong direction. The report reached a conclusion based on this finding, and I agree with it. It stated, and I'm going to quote, "Despite the efforts of the Tourism Linkages Network and the successes recorded in minimizing leakages from the tourism and allied sectors, sustained and growing demand in the tourism sector, as evident in the opening of 32 new hotels in Jamaica since 2014, has resulted in increased leakages in the manufacturing sector." That is a very serious statement. What the report is essentially saying is that there is a lot that can be done to strengthen linkages and reduce import leakages. The recommendation was made that focus was needed on improving the quality, fair enough, and consistency of supply, and improving information dissemination to the tourism sector stakeholders and locally produced goods and services, among other initiatives. My call in this Honourable House this morning is that we need a clear strategic plan by all stakeholders to ensure that we can deliver on these recommendations so we can create growth, more growth opportunities in Jamaica. I support that recommendation, and I would like to add that Jamaica needs a comprehensive policy framework to drive legislative changes to incentivize the purchase of local goods and services by local and foreign investors. There also needs to be a comprehensive program to support the local suppliers to develop quality products through access to funding, and provide them with access to increased linkages among all sectors. Together, these initiatives will support all sectors and levels of the economy to benefit meaningfully from foreign investments and reduce leakage. Mr. President, we have to note that the Honourable Minister of Tourism tabled the Tourism Linkages and Strategy in Parliament in August last year for approval as a white paper. I am personally looking forward to how that strategy will be operationalized to maximize the benefits that can be obtained from the development of the casino gaming industry and general foreign investments. And we need to get that done ASAP. Mr. President, other benefits to be derived from the IRDs is the planned expenditure. The infrastructure work is expected to be significant given the scope of the requirements for establishing an IRD. As you heard, I think it's Senator Allen or Senator Johnson-Smith, the minimum capital investment will be US $500 million. Big money. It should be noted, as was said before, that the amendments speak to the Minister's ability to dictate the level of expenditure of these facilities, and this is with a view to ensure these developments are impactful on the economy. In addition, luxury resorts have a higher employment to room ratio, which means that this is going to translate to more jobs. Senator Gale, I'm sure you're happy to hear that. But not just more jobs, Mr. President and colleagues, but jobs that will require specific skills to operate a casino. We must therefore, from now, planning ahead for those 4 potential investors to ensure that we have the workforce is properly trained to meet the demand, and I'm pleased that the Jamaica Center for Tourism has been established to train our hotel workers. We must not, Mr. President, give anybody the excuse that Jamaica don't have the skill set to run their casinos. We need to plan from now, and we have to hold ourselves accountable. Let us start training our people from now, whatever we have to do, to operate those casinos. I want to see Jamaicans operating those casinos. Mr. President, there's another point I'd like to make today. I certainly, as you have heard, support this legislation. It can be a game changer for economic growth in our country. But I also want to, what sometimes Senator Scott Motley, is a very sensitive topic. But we need to acknowledge that the abuse of gambling is a social issue which can have a negative effect on the society. We need to acknowledge that. All right? So we have to be responsible in developing the casino gaming industry and how it operates. We have to be responsible. I'm not advocating one way or another, but Senator Crawford, I'm sure that you know that Bahamas is a casino destination. However, Bahamian citizens or Bahamas citizens, they can't go into the casinos to gamble. I'm not saying I agree with it or not. I'm just saying that that is a fact. In doing my research, Mr. President, the Casino Gaming Commission, in its 2016 annual report, noted that it recommended research to be undertaken to determine the levels of problem of gaming in Jamaica. This would allow a benchmark to be developed and measures could be taken to reduce its effect on local communities. From my checks, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but this research was not done. It was not done. And I'm therefore renewing the call this morning for us to investigate and complete that research document to determine the current levels of abuse of gambling in Jamaica, and depending on the findings, take the necessary steps to ensure that the development of casino gaming does not have an adverse social impact on our local communities. One other matter that is we have to keep our eyes on at all times, and I want to raise the matter of AML, CFT risk that can be associated, anti-money laundering, that can be associated with developing the casino industry. I listened to Honorable Nigel Clark, and I support the national risk assessment being done on an ongoing basis to ensure that our AML framework is responsive to those risks. I believe that has to be a priority for us in the global financial market, and we must do all we can, put the right resources in place so that national risk assessment can be done at the highest level. That is one of the most important priorities as we move into this new industry. So, Mr. President, in closing, I want to commend the government on being proactive in amending the legislative framework for casino gaming. And leader, I'm not sure if you're in the House or President, we have 4 serious potential investors in Jamaica, and I'm speaking as chairman of JAMPRO. And this morning, one of them called the president of JAMPRO and asked what is happening. They're knocking on our door. The time is of essence that we have to get this done in a very structured way. I believe, as I said before, and I'm very passionate about the tourism linkages, which I spent most of my time on, that if we execute well, we have our strategies in place, our AML in place, and the training of Jamaicans in place, I believe strongly that this can be a game changer for our country by creating employment and serious economic growth. I'll go as far as I say it could be a game changer if we do it well. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Webby. Senator Crawford.
Thank you. Mr. President. Mr. President, I was going to say I was doing some idle reading, but there can be nothing called idle reading. Reading is just reading. I almost started on the wrong foot. But I was doing some reading and I came across a quote that I want to share before I start the presentation. And I'm happy Senator Braham is here because I believe that he may be pleased with the presentation, not with the quote, because the quote isn't from the Bible. But the quote is from a fellow you may know called Mark Twain. And I think he's British. He's British? Yes? So the Honorable Prime Minister, what is he now, PC? PC will be pleased as well. It says, give a man the reputation of an early riser, and he can sleep until noon. So give him the reputation of an early riser. And that reputation allows him to sleep till noon, because he has this reputation to rise early. And so, that being, oh, you don't really understand British things. All right, cool. So what we see happening very often is that proposals like these are given a reputation of being a panacea. In fact, they don't even say that they are early risers. They say they don't sleep. They're given this reputation that this will solve all the problems, and if not all, most the problems. And when it is given that reputation, we then don't make decisions on the net. Decisions on the net mean you consider the positives and the negatives and make a decision on the ratio of positive to negative. Indeed, many of us don't even know that daily we do that, because we don't buy only on price and we don't buy only on benefits. If we bought only on price, then cheaper cars would have never been sold, or more expensive cars, I'm sorry. And if we bought only on benefits, cheaper cars would never have been sold. So this brother called Norman, he comes around and he gives the Norman equation. He says people buy on value, and that value is the ratio of benefits to outlay. And when you hear that, you say, why never say ratio of benefits to price? He says because the price is only one aspect of the outlay. There is also the risk and the future costs. So Norman come and say, when you are going to buy something, Senator Hill, you're going to look at the benefits of your nice helicopter, because you're a helicopter guy. You're that level of a person. And you're going to look at the helicopter and you're going to say to yourself, what is the future cost of this helicopter or a yacht? Some of us, we hope to have a boat one day. What's the future cost of parking the yacht? Park it? Exactly, I can understand. Of having a person to be the captain, docking it and things. Right? So you're going to look at that future cost. And you're also going to say, what's the risk? Like for me who can't swim, what is the risk of having this, this yacht? All right. So I'm making that platform because we must look at this whole casino concept as Norman will look. What are the benefits, some of which have been outlined by Senator Webby, and rightfully so, but also what are the costs? And until we look at that, Senator Braham, I think that we're putting the cart before the horse. Because when you look at this here, it says, provide for inclusion the minimum capital investment. What should be the minimum capital investment? Is going to be, what is a reasonable minimum capital investment? Is going to be dependent on how we analyze it will be executed. How would gambling be allowed in Jamaica? A simple question, Senator. I don't like when it is so far, you know. But Senator Samuda, if we are not allowing Jamaicans to gamble, then that changes what is reasonable to ask of the investor. If we're allowing Jamaicans to gamble, then that changes how much we have to ask to pay for some of the ills that come with the Jamaican being allowed to gamble. So therefore, when you say 500 rooms, is it 500 rooms in the context of Jamaicans are not allowed to gamble? or 500 rooms in the context that Jamaicans are allowed to gamble. Senator Webby, you brought it up. I can say clearly what my position is. Jamaicans, in my opinion, should not be allowed to gamble. And there are other countries other than the Bahamas that has implemented this, and it is for good reason. What are some of the reasons that they have implemented this? It is because of what is perceived to be the social cost of gambling. You'll have some among us that will try to say we already have gaming, and gaming is the same as gambling. If this was true, why we don't give away a gaming license instead of a casino license? If gaming lounge and casino are the same, then we don't need to move to a casino license, but they are not the same. One of the biggest starts is that a gaming lounge will have a limit while the casino have no limit. Senator Braham, a man can go and say and feel him luck and put all his money on it and lose everything. But I am a man who go gaming lounges, and I've seen people go and look for a quarter. I don't want you to know all the things about me. Sorry? No, I'm going to London tomorrow maybe to go and see the match. It's coming home. But, but what I'm saying is, I have had the experience of using gaming as a form of entertainment. And thank the Lord, I'm in an income bracket that I can perceive gaming as a form of entertainment. But in seeking that entertainment, I've also seen people that use it as a job. A job. Him can't pay him rent if him not win. And they are out there, I'm talking about adult men, adult women, walking around begging a quarter because the gaming lounge use US quarters. But what the gaming lounge disallow is for me to put everything I have one time. It have a maximum, in many cases, 50 coins. The casino don't have that maximum. The casino also have the human element. The gaming lounge don't have the human element. You're playing against a machine. Don't underestimate how likely you are to give up against a machine as versus a person. I've been there. Yo, them set up this machine, I know nobody now win tonight. I'm going to my yard. Against a person, every time him quint S come. May I get S next, may I wait upon the quint. And so these realities are causing for whenever a person is within the casino to be greater exposed to the negatives of gambling. What the research says are some of these negatives of gambling. Authors such as Acklock, 2000, Cabra, 2007, Harrell and Ports, 2003, Petty, 2003, it says that casinos normally lead to social deviations such as domestic violence, divorce, bankruptcy, drug and alcohol abuse, risky or illicit sexual behaviors, especially prostitution. These are things. I was at a gaming lounge. And no, Senator, a very important point you made. Because in policy, we must consider the most vulnerable. We are all not equally vulnerable. And there are some people that are more vulnerable than others. And that vulnerability is based on the ability to cope with the circumstance that they face. And so, I start up Senator Braham, I didn't know it. I know you were depending on me today, Senator Braham. But let it go again. Additionally, Stokowski and Long argued that gaming towns in Colorado and South Dakota clearly indicate that the rates of criminal activity increased due to the development of casino enterprise in these two locations. Now, again, as a research, I'm telling you, I'm sure there's research that said there's no correlation. And there's research that suggests there is correlation. What I'm asking for the parliament to do is to make a decision based on the information you believe and not a decision on the information you're exposed to. If you're only exposed to one information, then you don't get to make which one we believe. And so there are multiple studies that suggest that this negative comes with the participation in casino gambling. And so if it is that we are allowing for the locals to gamble, I am not in it. I'm against it personally. Forget it. But if it is that we are not, then we have to analyze the room requirement based on that reality that a segment of their market is being removed by our legal decisions. These are things that we must consider. We equally must consider, is the casino going to be allowed to be 24 hours? No. This is again another big thing to discuss. Because I heard, where's the leader of the government business? I like when she's in the house and she gets up and says, point of information, or something like that. I like it. But what I'm saying is this. At this point, it's important for us to analyze what is the role of the casino, Senator Webby. In tourism, it can play one of two roles. It is an attractor, the reason people come, or it's an attraction, what they do while they're here. So if the casino is to be an attractor, people will come for the casino. I don't see that happening. I'll give you a simple example. You see, Kilimanjaro is the name of the mountain. It's an attractor to that country. People go there to see Kilimanjaro. But I would argue Duns River Falls is not an attractor. It's an attraction. You're here, so you go climb it. Are you understanding? So in Jamaica, the main attractor is really a climate difference. That's why we have the seasonality that we have. That when we have warm weather in the winter, that's why we call them bird tourists. They fly south for winter. And so the main reason people come, it is because of our climatic blessings. Are you understanding what I'm saying? That climatic blessings now is not only in Jamaica. So sometimes we need differentiators to then now say, you already want to go to somewhere that is warm. This is the better warm place. And so when it comes to, for example, Senator Webb is saying that we have to diversify. Diversification creates that second level of competitiveness. Having decided I want to go on a warm weather vacation, you can go Barbados, you can go Dam Rep, you can go Albo. But then Jamaica say, in addition to weather, we have Bob Marley. In addition to weather, we have Usain Bolt. In addition to weather, we have ganja, we have red stripe, we have these things, and then we make those recommendations to say, this is our differentiator based on our attractor and others who have the equal attractor. I put to you that the casino will not be an attractor. I can be different, I can be incorrect, but I don't perceive that a man is going to take a 7-day vacation to come to a casino that is no different than other casinos. So if he might come to Jamaica, he might go to the casino. So in addition, it might be a differentiator. I'm putting it to you. You cannot accept it. But other than Las Vegas, I don't know many. I don't think casino is the chief attractor for a material number of persons to the Bahamas. To the Bahamas. A material number of persons. And that means that's sufficient to be considered as a segment. So when I look at the Bahamas report, I don't see them saying that this is the basic reason. Also, when I look at the equal, what you call it, the winter versus summer differentiation existing also in the Bahamas, it don't suggest that something that is permanent at every period of time is the basis of attraction. These are just bases upon which I come with my hypotheses. But I can be incorrect. I'm just saying I don't believe it's an attractor. I believe it's an attraction. Now, the literature actually supports my assumption that is an attraction. And that is a problem because it is a competing attraction. This is what the literature says as it relates to casinos. It says that, this is Jane and Colliston 2004. It indicates that guests spend much more time participating in casino gambling than other leisure activities. That whenever there is the evolution of casino tourism, that the guest would normally spend more time playing casino than actually other activities. Meaning like Duns River Falls, meaning like Chocka Cove, meaning like any other activity. So when we look at that, it is going in the inverse of what Senator Webby rightly is proposing, that we need more linkages. Because it states here from the literature, from other people's experience, that in the first 4 years of Atlantic City, retail businesses reduced by 1/3. And restaurants, local restaurants, moved from 243 to 146 in the first 4 years of Atlantic City. This is not the linkages that we are demanding. This is not the linkages that we are seeking to gain. Now, I understand the desire of building back stronger in tourism and in every aspect of Jamaica. And there's nobody who wants it more than me who sell directly. That is my business. If tourists build stronger, I am going to be a Hulk. So therefore, I want it. But I also understand that the impact, the negatives must be considered before we jump full speed ahead. So if you have a 24-hour gambling, then it is going to be a permanent competitor to our other activities and counter to the linkages. Remember, all-inclusive hotels already have restaurants, multiple restaurants, lovely restaurants. Remember, all-inclusive hotels already have water sports. Remember, all-inclusive hotels already have all the other recreations that you can think of, snorkeling and all these things, glass bottom boats. And now, in addition, they will have casinos. That reduces the time that people will leave the property. In fact, a hotel could always suggest that within the price, you have a certain amount of free gambling. And then now that becomes a competitive advantage because, you know, attract me even before I go. Are you understanding what I'm saying, Senator? I don't know if you're agreeing, but I just hope you're understanding. So what happens therefore? Not to, yeah, but just to understand. And different perspectives exist. I'm just saying that if we are looking at what is reasonable, we have to look at what we're selling. What are we offering to investors? Are we offering 24 hours because that may be a risk to our industry? Now, as I said, I understand wanting to build back stronger. But all of us, many of us, are in this quicksand. And when you're in a quicksand, don't fight too hard. When you're in a quicksand, don't move too quick. When you're in a quicksand, be more strategic in your decision making. Because it is my opinion that there are lower hanging fruits that could help us to build stronger that we are not looking at. And we are running full speed ahead to a man that is being sold as a early riser. And by extension, he's sleeping until very, very late because we were told him don't even sleep. What are some of these things that we could consider? The entertainment industry. The entertainment industry can, if the investment is allowed, become an evener of the seasonality that Jamaica faces. It can become an evener of that. And that is why in our time on this side, when we were in the Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment at the time, we decided to promote 90 days of summer called Jamrock Summer. Because when there is no climatic difference, we felt that entertainment could be used as a drawing card so that persons will come to Jamaica for entertainment. Senator Rodriguez, we don't know the pull of Jamaica's entertainment. We have not seen it until we see it. I went to France and see a reggae show for 3 days. 3 days. It had 33,000 people. When we have something with 10,000 people, we start to say it's a big event. 33,000 people in France. Sorry? I went to Spain, Rotterdam. 80,000 people. This is a reggae concert. This concert was closed by a Jamaican act. I mean the final act. This concert had a museum display of Stone Love sound system. This concert. And so therefore, when we look at, say, we want to do something right now, we already have something we are known for, that we have not taken sufficient government promotion and sufficient investment to facilitate. When we said 90 days for summer, we were saying to ourselves that if you could build around Sumfest, so that Sumfest was worthy of taking a flight and a thing, and not that Sumfest is below, you know. I'm saying, if I'm going to spend airfare and rooms, I might want a little bit more than just the show. So could we build around the show a breakfast event so that people could know the gastronomy of Jamaica could be exposed? Could we build around the show after events so that a man could come? When we look at carnival, that still can be developed to the point that we can not maybe rival immediately, but start to grow to the point. It can be developed more, that we can do that. Senator Mayor doing an excellent job. When we were there, we said we wanted to build a reggae loop. And that reggae loop would have included Bob Marley Museum down by Trenchtown, properly outfitted. I see you're doing some nice work with some roads. Look down Trenchtown, make we sort it out. You understand? So that somebody can sell Georgie porridge. You know how much money that makes selling Georgie porridge if we really start to make Trenchtown be a place where people want to see. I talk about the same visitor already coming here, spending more money. Sorry? Georgie porridge. Bob Marley sing about it that he used to drink Georgie porridge.
Do not enlighten the man. Leave him alone.
Because he will go listen to you know. Right? But and then so many people come from Trenchtown. If we could have get back some of those houses and rebuild it so that people could have then go and see how Bob Marley used to live, and see how this one used to live, and see how that one used to live. Right? The vintage artists, they came to us and we were far ahead with a walk of fame, right? So people could have to do a walk of fame. These are things that we can spend on immediately and don't risk our people as much as Casino is seeking to risk our people. I think that's a low-hanging fruit that we could have said, yeah, we need to build back stronger. We can differentiate ourselves. We can use this as a low-hanging fruit. There's also craft. I was trying to find the study, Senator Dana. I was trying to find the article. There was an article that says an American leaves. An American because the majority of visitors to Jamaica are Americans. In fact, the majority of visitors to Jamaica are from the tri-state. We don't even capture the whole of America yet. With about $150 he planned on spending. Or she planned on spending. Meaning a man come here, like when you go foreign regular senator. You're going to foreign, you put a $300 in your pocket. The average person at that time when they did the study was leaving with 150 he had intended to spend. Make we get that 150 there while we have fixed up what is our agreed approach towards casinos. What's it in that 150? Craft. There are some countries like the Seychelles, Senator Webby, sending $189 per person in craft on average. No, because that reduces the value of the craft. Nobody wants to buy craft made in China. That's why they have to take off the tag made in China. And that is why we had proposed that any craft must have a permanent stamp of where it was made. Nothing has happened to that. Nothing has happened to that. And so what happened now is that if Jamaica should get half of that is $27 billion. We can make $27 billion if we get $90 per person in craft. But it's going to take some things. And we proposed at that time that we should try a program called One Craft per Community. That each community should actually use what is in its environs, set up a place where you can get the access to the machines and develop craft. So if you have straw craft coming from that. I remember there was a place up in Harborview that had gypsum, and we carry some people to say, yo, you can do gypsum craft in this area. And other people may have wood, and other people may have something else. And so we'd have to expand the craft available, because when you go in the craft market, Senator Golding, you see fish, you see giraffe, You see, elephant, which I recently learned that an elephant with a tusk up must mean good luck, but you know, mean nothing for Jamaica. You understand? You don't see a representation with our creativity of music to the same level that is a giraffe. You don't see a representation of our creativity in sports. A painted button, or I'm not that creative, but I'm saying you don't see the representation in that. So I'm saying that if we start to put in some of our, down in Montego Bay, some of our community centers, the necessary equipment or a rental system, a rotation system, it can buy a little time to analyze what kind we are looking to propose. The other thing is, I consistently see within this thing, it says luxury rooms. And I couldn't understand what is our role in determining what kind of room. We have a role in saying what's the minimum spend. But how do you define in your perception? There's a new trend going on now because I watch a lot of HGTV. There's no shame in my game because I was building a house and I watch it and then I just love it. Little house, small, there's a movement now, small house movement. Yes, and people are rich people. So therefore, what is our perception of luxury and why should it be imposed if we already set an amount? We already set an amount. So why should our perception of luxury be imposed? I didn't understand why we continuously say a luxury room. The other thing is that there are, within the same gambling space, an immediate advantage that we can gain with the cruise ship. The cruise ship is not allowed to gamble in our waters. Remember, I said I don't think Jamaicans should be gambling. So the best place we go on is on the cruise ship because Jamaican can't go on it unless he pay money and he goes on it. It immediately protects the society. But you know why the cruise ship, one of the reasons they want to leave by 6? Because they want to get out of our waters so that them can open them casino.
Yes, facts.
I only talk facts. They don't agree with all the facts, but it's facts. To this extent, if we should free up the cruise ship to allow gambling within the waters, but of their visitors only, then they can now stop saying to their visitors, come back by 6 because we have to leave by 8. Or come back by 4. What that mean, Senator Braham? That a man might say, I'm tired of the food on the ship now. I'm going to this restaurant. Experience the jerk. And of course, you know the other one. I don't want to over promote, but yeah. He can say, he can also say, he might go down to the party, to the event in Pier 1 down in your place. Or there can be an evolution of activities of visitor night out. Exactly. We can look over where Sam Sharp do and do a thing with the fire again every night or every cruise ship night. We can go glorious God. Are you understanding what I'm saying, Senator Braham? If we allow the cruise ship to gamble, because remember now, that we are at a disadvantage, in my opinion, based on our vaccination rates for the reattraction of cruise ships. Because you have a little people over the other side of the Caribbean, those up above us, I don't want to call a name, that is boasting that they're almost 100% vaccinated and they're a competitor for cruise ships. And the negatives associated with the cruise ship and COVID is that you cannot even dock. So they're not taking that risk. We can add a little incentive to say we will quickly move to allow for gambling on the cruise ship within our waters, but we don't reach the point yet that we are going to say what it is reasonable to invest on land. My final point, Mr. President, is that I don't think that we put in enough thought in this thing. As I said, is it an attraction or an attraction? Senator Braham, almost every one of them are going to want to be where we have already multiplicity of attractions. Almost all of them will want to be where the beaches are. All of them will want to be where Duns River is. And poor little Clarendon, we cannot attract them with that, is ignored. If we want to expand No, with beach. You have beach up there, white sand. Talk to me faster now. Because I understand that over St. Thomas have some nice white sand over there. But if we could say that the areas of our country that don't have the attraction load that the Ocherios and the Montego Bay and the Negril have, those are the areas that we will propose. That since this is an attractor, because some people say it's an attractor. I don't want to call the name, that's why I say some people.
Senator Hill?
Just a little 5 minutes. Yes.
Mr. President, given that the Speaker's time has elapsed, we're proposing that he be given sufficient time to finish his presentation.
Thank you. The question is that the Speaker be given 10 minutes to complete his presentation.
Yes, sir.
Those in favor?
No problem. I'll be there.
Those in favor? Those in favor?
Yes, sir.
Continue, please, Senator Crawford.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If we could look at the Clarendons that don't have the natural attractor. Well, Migros isn't perceived within the space. We love it and we're promoting it, but it has not proved itself as an attractor naturally. But if a tourist comes for the casino, he will then experience Milk River. Yes. Because Milk River then becomes an attraction within the context. So therefore, if we could use that to expand the product, right, by asking for the casinos to be in the places that don't have the load, the attraction load, I think that we would have done a great service to balance the concept, balance the thing, to equalize it. Hashtag, right. So therefore, I perceive that the one per resort town could be refined to say that these are the areas that don't have the tourist load, that don't have the overcrowding, that currently, that don't have the employment ability that the hotels are currently generating, that we will allow them to go in these spaces. So what I'm saying, Mr. President, is while it is that I am not seeking to block development, I believe that I cannot reasonably analyze what is reasonable to offer before we have agreed as a society what is a type of gambling. Reasonable to request before we agree what's the type of gambling we are about to offer. If you look at the cash pot and those similar quote-unquote gaming, the poor are the chief participants, many of whom depend on it to either dog for a puss or house for a car for them to eat them dinner. Them have a 1 in 36 chance of eating. And if we expand that, we will find that they will also expand their investments into something that has proven to be negative for many. With that, Mr. President, I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Crawford. Senator Golden Campbell. Senator Gill.
Thank you. It's all right. It's okay. It's okay. Huh? Okay. Yeah? Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I seem to have gotten my mask stuck in my earring, which Mr. President, I was trying to make a point of fixing because these earrings were made yesterday by my 8-year-old daughter who asked me to wear them today. So, if you can, so that I fulfill my promise. Mr. President, I rise to support the bill before us that the Minister of Finance in the House pointed out the lack of activity despite the legislation that had been enacted in the casino gaming sector for the last 10, 11 years. And he specifically spoke, Mr. President, about the need to strengthen the industry to recover from the pandemic that we have been going through and to enhance the tourism product, particularly in this sector. And I know himself and Minister of Tourism have worked very hard to put these amendments in place. I want to speak on a particular aspect of the process of casino gaming licensing, Mr. President. And although not specifically a part of the amendments before us, I just want to raise some cautions to the Ministry of Finance and the Commission in terms of the processing of the applications that they are likely to see. Because one of the experiences I have in my other hat as an attorney is oftentimes when we have parties who come to invest and they are going through an administrative process that arises from statutory enactments. It sometimes doesn't happen as seamlessly as we would want it to happen. So I just want to ask the team, not that these should be subject to legislation, but just to take a look at the application process that's outlined on the sections 14 to 17 and in regulations, because it does involve due diligence, fit and proper assessments, and so on. And while there are some timelines in relation to when the Commission must give information to the applicant, there are not really stringent timelines in terms of how long that process should take place. Upon application, how long does an applicant expect the entire review process and approval process to take place? And sometimes it's hard for us to predict that, and it's definitely not I think, a subject matter for legislation, but perhaps in the administrative protocols, the team can look back at that, as I know the Minister has been looking at the entire system and seeking to improve it, and he certainly has strengthened, in my view, with these amendments, certain thresholds and sanctions that will flow if applicants do not observe the amendments that are before us. So that's just my caution, and I'd ask the team just to take a look at that. But I have to say something further, Mr. President, because, you know, it has been 2012 to now, it has been quite some time for inactivity to have been a feature of this sector. And it's not true, I think, to give the impression that these amendments are occurring in any hurry. I don't think anybody in Jamaica is going to agree that 11 years represents time of hurry. Particularly, and Senator Allen, I know you took issue with the exclusion of those developers with the existing rooms. But that was a feature of the original act in 2012. And in fact, in 2013, under the then Minister of Finance, Peter Phillips, when regulations were promulgated, and again in 2015, that remained a feature of the act. The policy initiative did not change. So I'm very happy that the work that the Minister of Finance has done and the Minister of Tourism has done has suddenly created on that side a new view of looking at this act. And I want to thank the Minister of Finance for inspiring that kind of review. The fact of the matter is he has done the review on the act. We have recognized that there are anomalies in terms of the entry barriers. That has been corrected with these amendments before us. And so he should be commended for that, Minister. Mr. President, I don't think that at the end of the day it's about slow down. We're not doing this in a hurry. 11 years is no hurry. It's about getting focused, which the Minister has done, getting it done, building back stronger, recovering stronger. May it please you, Mr. President.
Yes. Why don't tomorrow
Thank you very much, Senator Golden. Senator Brown.
President.
Mr. President.
We can actually move a motion now.
Yes, Senator Brown, go ahead, please.
We can capitalize and move a motion now. We have the majority.
I thank those on the government side who have remained in support of the government's own bill. The issue of casino gaming has been around for a long time. Our churches have adopted a certain position. Notwithstanding that, governments have proceeded to make legislation. And I speak of successive administration, both this administration and the administration before. And I wonder today whether the fervent prayers of the church is winning. Yes. Because the issue of gaming, as they now call it, rather than gambling, has been around for a long time. In 2003, Mr. Dennis Layla was commissioned to do a report. That report came in, and in fact the report was prepared in consultation with PricewaterhouseCoopers of Canada. And in 2003, they expressed the view that casino gaming would be a very viable industry for Jamaica and has significant potential for direct and indirect employment. With such glowing assessment, one would wonder why, after almost 20 years, the casino gaming has not taken off. A lot of time was spent in building the regulatory framework. A lot of time was done explaining who could participate and who couldn't participate. We thought of limiting it to 2 players.
then it was extended to 3, 1 per county. And we had all of this discussion. So it is successive governments who have sought to bring casino gaming in. It has not been one side opposing the next side. There seems to be a consistent consensus. But again, as I say, the church seems to be praying. When the Layla report came, it recommended a maximum of 3 licenses, I said. And then in 2000 and in 2008, Mr. President, during his maiden budget presentation as Prime Minister, the then Honorable Bruce Golding, because he refused the ON, and I didn't think he took the PC, meaning Privy Council, not anything else. He, in addressing the Parliament, said, based on the review by the Layla Committee, the government has taken the decision to permit the licensing of casinos in Jamaica. So in 2008, Mr. Golding took that decision and the legislation came in 2010. So, having declared that, he made it clear in 2008 that there would be conditions not just for approval, but even for consideration. And he said one of the first conditions must that, firstly, there must be a minimum investment of $1.5 billion US, followed by applause. Some of the applause are here today. Today, the legislation is not for 1.5 billion, but for 0.5 billion. 1/3 of what it was proposed in 2008, which means that there's not been much take-up. Even though at the time, certain agreements were announced. And I share with you, members and the public who is listening, what the Prime Minister said then. He said, with this decision, that's the decision to legalize casino gambling, we have already secured agreements with these 2 investors for major developments involving over 6,000 new hotel rooms and over $2.8 billion of additional investment over and above what was applause. Which brings me to the point, Mr. President. There was a former U.S. ambassador to Jamaica who spoke about our propensity to applaud announcements. So I asked myself, what became of this secured agreement to build 6,000 new rooms, $2.8 billion US of investment? What has become of that? Mere announcement, the clapping of the desk. And so when I listen to Senator Webby speaking of what is to come, I also remember a firm announcing 10,000 new rooms. Under us?
10,000.
Yeah. Sound like charisma, huh? 10,000 new rooms under us, and repeated ad nauseum by the current Minister of Tourism. So again I ask, can we look beyond the announcements to some reality? We were told that the one company that was guaranteed the license negotiation took place to allow for another license near Montego Bay. Because that one was to be in Trelawney. So it's clear to me, Mr. President, that we have hung our hats on these great and grand announcements. In fact, the then Prime Minister in 2008 went on to say, "It is our intention to dedicate the revenues from the casino operation to a special fund to be used for capital development." And so the health sector, education, and security was where this money was going to go. We're going to expect to be properly rewarded in terms of our tax collection. That hasn't happened. It is the Jamaican people who continue to pay the burden, the bulk of the taxes. Again, caught by announcement. The then Prime Minister said, "We have seen enough information about casino revenues in a number of other countries for us to be pretty sanguine that we're talking about a good flow of funds." That's 2008. Today, that flow of funds haven't come. And so, I am not moved, Mr. President, by the grand announcements today. In fact, I wish to say that I'm concerned that on one of these projects, the government of Jamaica, again, successive governments, have spent a lot of taxpayers' money trying to get Harmony Cove up and running. And like Senator Crawford, I wonder if that money invested with good intention in Harmony Cove over the years was spent on agriculture, helping us to reduce our import food bill, whether or not the returns for Jamaica would not have been greater. I wonder if that amount of money spent was spent in developing small businesses, whether the return to Jamaica would not have been better. In other words, this casino dream seems to be an illusion, to be pursued but never attained. And so I ask myself also, if the money we spent on Harmony Cove over the years by successive governments, so nobody have to tell me that your government spent too, by successive government, was spent on human development capital, taking our young people, teaching them computer languages, letting them go in the world, whether the return on investment to Jamaica would not have been better. And I am of that view, and I am able to do so with hindsight if you want. But it tells me that I must be wary of these new announcements, of these grand promises, these great declarations of what we will get from the casino. The reality is, we have had to reduce to attract. And some questions has to be asked here as to who is going to get these licenses. One senator said there are 4 potential applicants, 2 already here and 2 new ones. Who are they? Should the Jamaican people know who they are? Because I've heard names called in the past of who intend to build casinos, Hanover, Trelawney. So let us know what is the game. What will be the process used for selecting the investors? Will it be public tender? Will it be RFPs? The country needs to know, because we have been sucked too far with others in the past, for which nothing has come our way but the expending of taxpayers' money in ways that we could have spent it better. I want to know, therefore, will it be public tenders? Who will oversee the process? Is it the Commission or is it the Minister? The country deserves to know how many licenses will be issued. And as one senator said, what about money laundering? Is this an issue? Is there implications that we have to take into account? Will the hotel that Senator Crawford raised be closed to locals or open to everybody? These are issues that we should know as we come to debate this bill before us. And of course, I believe the Senator on that side spoke about the need for public education. Well, didn't put it that way, but the social impact of gambling and casino gambling on the society. And I think you also pointed that out, Senator Crawford. So the issue is, what measures are being put in place to deal with the public education that are necessary? And so, I don't know if it is the Father answering the prayers of the church that has put a roadblock on these things. I don't know if that's the case. What I do know is that some of these investors are very good at making grand promises, but when time comes, no information. I recall it was this year in the minister's budget speech, he spoke about the need to find 25 million US, 3.5 billion Jamaican, to take up our role in the harmonization project. Has that money been found in the face of flood, in the face of the pandemic? And should we really be continuing showing good money after what may very well turn out to be a dud? And so, Mr. President, the opposition is not opposing this bill, but we're raising concerns. We're raising caution as we lower the bar, expecting a flood. We don't even know if it's going to be open for all. Or we're doing that for a select few, as Senator Allen said. More information is needed. We are not going to stand in the way of what the government is doing. We know the church continue to pray, and may their prayer continue to be answered. May it please you. And you could welcome the others back in now, Mr. President. Call them.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. Senator Fraser Binns, let the record show that I tried. You know what I'm talking about. Senator Gill, you don't know what we are talking about, so don't get involved with this. Senator Gill, I recognize you.
You know, I stand, first of all, in support of the objectives of this amendment to this piece of legislation. And, you know, I listen to my colleagues on both sides, and I think some of the points made require some attention, require further deliberation. Might not agree with the extent to which some of them have been presented. And I'm sorry Senator Crawford left, because, you know, he made the point about this being proposed to solve all our problems. And so there ought to be no assumption that when we review our legislations and make proposals, that we are creating what I call growth illusions. This piece of proposal is not meant to solve all problems. This government is not about enriching the few to impoverish the many. We're about making representation in terms of our policies geared towards all in society. And a good observation in terms of, what is an attraction as to the attractor. And I would want to suggest to him that, the Las Vegas concept is really the attractor. But we're not there yet. What we are doing is to say, how can we develop our attractions to be attractors? But in this case, to create the combination effect, where we can have both the attractors and the attractions. Senator Brown, one of the things about this administration is that it is not about just announcements. We make announcements followed by positive action. President, Senator Webby suggested that this is a game changer. We're stepping up the game. President, the COVID-19 pandemic, has demonstrated conclusively that a vibrant tourism industry is central to Jamaica's economic growth. And we know that industry leaders have begun to focus how the recovery might lead to a better integrated industry to support our national development. Last year was a disappointment for Jamaica's tourism. The estimates suggest that visitor arrivals, not only for our shores, but the region itself, fell by some 75% in the last 3 quarters of 2020, causing our economic growth to contract. And industry players does not expect the industry to bounce back fully until sometime in 2023. But we are cautiously optimistic that the island may see a...
Yeah, I'm sorry. And it's one of the things that we need to look at, Senator Scott Martin, we need to look at in the standing orders review, this 120 thing. And you remember Senator Clark, Naval Clark was always at us trying to get it changed. And I think there is a proposal, because now I have to interrupt you to ask whether we can continue beyond 120. Senator Hill?
Mr. President, the time being 1:20, I ask that the Senate be allowed to sit beyond 1:30 to complete the business of the day.
Members would have heard the answer. Those in favor? Aye. Against? Thank you. Sorry about that, Senator Gill.
Thank you, President. Thank you, colleagues. Sorry?
Restart the sentence.
Now we're saying that the industry players anticipate that there's going to be a boost in the latter part of 2021 and certainly early 2022. And all of that, is even subject to our vaccination drive. And so one of the things that we must do every time we speak now is to promote vaccination. President, for both tourism and the government, the pandemic has been a wake-up call, necessitating collaboration and offering an opportunity to reassess the industry's potentially important future development role. And I want to say, sir, that this continuous recovery plan will require the industry stakeholders to develop response to the many challenges the sector faces. And these include the vulnerability of the economic downturn that we're facing, periodic climate change, and also the ability to ensure the airlifting as passengers, especially against the challenges in the airline industry, just the competitive market space that we're facing globally. And I personally and my union, we're having some challenges right now with the airline industry in terms of the loss of jobs. President, 2020 saw almost approximately 70% of the workers in the tourism industry were laid off. And the vast majority, sir, did not have to take their redundancy entitlement, owing to their loyalty and commitment to the industry and their employer. Mr. President, I want to use this opportunity to commend our workers in the tourism sector for the tremendous work that they have done. The valuable effort, the loyalty and commitment that has been displayed and demonstrated for the industry. President, we must also commend the government for its effective response in providing care packages and social support at a time needed for the workers in the industry. You know, President, legislation that we are reviewing today is aimed at providing a comprehensive legislative framework to stimulate the growth of the integrated resort sector and the working community. President, this planned development is expected to generate large-scale foreign direct investment. And you know, speakers have represented the fact that it has taken long to make these amendments. Senator Allen spoke about a more comprehensive type of amendment. And maybe that ought to be taken into consideration. But one of the things that I want to place on the table, the role of the legislative framework and business is not mutually exclusive. And I want to suggest to us that legislations that are aimed at driving the economy must be reviewed in the time frame that is established. We take far too long in reviewing those pieces of legislations that the economy, the environment would have shifted. And so we have to catch up. And we must pay keen attention to reviewing those legislations that are catalysts to our investment. And so, President, I'm of the view that it is the assessment that was done that is requiring this change today, and we must be commended for that. Mr. President, a responsible government will take the necessary steps during a pandemic to examine effective strategies in ensuring that the country affords itself the opportunity in building a more resilient and sustainable tourism industry. And that's what we're doing. We're diversifying our approach aimed at making the necessary changes geared towards economic recovery. And the most flexible solutions are needed to enable the tourism economy to live alongside this virus in not only short term, but medium term, and to look beyond the use and to rethink our tourism future. And so, President, this move is aimed at a continuous diversification of our tourism product, and it encourages the resorts to do their own diversification. President, you know, I'm not a gambling man. I wouldn't even bet that I will win a bet.
Never bet it. We won't win. No gamble.
Casino gaming is a big business that has economic benefits and can serve as a catalyst for tourism development. And President, it can present itself in the promotion of our market as a major tourism destination. Let's not scoff at what takes place in the Bahamas. It is a big attraction. Massive investment that attracts many tourists to participate. It is a major entertainment. And listen, it can be viewed as the attractor. And so, President, we must not feel that we as a country cannot climb to those heights. President, the casino gambling, or gaming, is one way in which tourists are attracted to visit a particular country. And apart from boosting the surge of tourism within an economy, it helps in providing increasing employment opportunities. Some will argue that it offers fantastic and quality entertainment to tourists at any point. Casino gaming offers different benefits in different economies in the world. President, it acts as an attraction from other parts of the world, which brings a lot of revenues to the areas that they visit. And this industry, sir, continues to thrive. Hence, we can be sure of our continuous performance in the tourism business. President, so I'm in agreement with the review and to make changes to the existing provisions to look at the number of rooms now required for qualification, and also includes those resorts that are presently under construction, who may decide that they wish to be included. And President, the bill also seeks to establish a timeline within which all the facilities that comprise an integrated resort development are to be constructed. President, this promotes compliance and it encourages a targeted approach towards a specific objective. So the proposed bill also seeks to distinctly define the number of such rooms that must be a luxury hotel room. And particularly, I'm attracted to this approach because distinctly, the luxury hotel is what those provide a different experience, a different niche market, unique on-site service. And if players who are in the gaming as tourists that are going to come, that have money to spend, we must prepare the accommodation to the extent that can suit them. And encourage them to come here and to partake and to treat with not only the gaming, but what else we have to offer. And so that is where the combination comes in. President, I support the reasons and objectives. And Senator Webby spoke about 4 investors ready to take off. 2 are already here. Mr. President, those 4 investors inspires confidence in the Jamaica as a country and our economy as a destination. And I want to suggest to the chairman of JAMPRO and the JAMPRO team, I wish them well in these negotiations, that it will bear profit, proof, and fruitful, and that others will see it and inspire others to come, because that's what we're about. We're about creating the level of catalyst geared towards development. And so, President, we must also take the opportunity in this space to create more jobs, to increase the labor force. And one of the things that I want to strongly recommend, Senator Webby spoke about it in terms of preparing the labor force for this take-up, training the labor force. Whatever these roles are going to be, we must make the preparation. And so I call on entities like the Heart Trust to identify those niche areas, those critical roles that would be fitting for the promotion of this market, and train our workers, train our labor force so that we are ready for the take-up. So this not only is aimed at attracting economic benefits, attracting investment, creating jobs, but also much needed coffers in our revenues in terms of taxes. And so, President, I don't view this as any knee-jerk effect. It was carefully thought out, well planned, and is going to be demonstrated, geared towards investment. May it please you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank my colleagues for their usual robust participation in the debate. Mr. President, just to address some of the issues which, of course, have been raised during the context of this morning's discussions, I will. It's all right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Sorry about that. I should have signaled. Yes, Mr. President. Some specific questions have been asked, but I just want to say quite broadly that this amendment, or rather this slate of amendments that have been put before us, as Senator Gale has so effectively put forward in his contribution this morning, is about differentiation, and it is about adding to what we have. It is really not about replicating the same. When we speak about diversifying what is available in the industry, it does not mean that there should not be anything else, but this is a product to be added. Clearly, what is in place has not been working. And it is in this context that the task force was established in 2018. 2018. So this is not a rushed process by any standards, apart from the fact that the Principal Act came into effect in 2010, June 2010, as I had said before. So just 11 years ago. The fact is that a task force which was in place for 2 years, essentially, doing research, not only on having local consultations, but primarily focused on what exists and what works. We don't have a casino industry here. So to consult within your same circle only would be to not create what is needed to be introduced into the space. So they did look at best practices that currently exist in Japan, in Indonesia, elsewhere, to understand what do we need to shift. What can we surgically shift in order to create a different result? And as Senator Webby indicated earlier, the soundings are already out, and we are in a window doing such adjustments as are necessary to attract investment and create real results. The intention is not to do more of the same. It is to do new, and it's not to the exclusion of what else needs to be done. So Senator Crawford's allusion to the need to harness our culture and our entertainment industries, what makes us inherently Jamaican, our gastronomy, broaden the scope of what is available in terms of concert offerings. All of that is also on the table, but it is not about casino gaming. Casino gaming is quite specific. And that is what we are here to deal with this morning. So we are doing that work between tourism and culture, gender, entertainment and sports ministries, as well as local government, as well as Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. There's even a new craft policy that Senator Crawford could probably have a look at to determine some of, to acquaint himself with some of the developments that have happened in that arena. These are things we take seriously as a government too. This is why we have the linkages committee. This is why we are working so hard on creating new linkages to ensure that all levels of Jamaican levers of industry and agriculture and culture and every sector is able to benefit from an expanded tourism sector. So the fact that you are doing one thing does not mean that you do not do another. So we are here today to pass the amendments to make this happen. So on the matter of why the amendments do not include existing investors, Senator Golding has already contributed on the point about this being a part of the policy consistently. But also, I just want to emphasize, it's about creating growth. It's about creating new investment. There is no barrier to any existing investor applying and building new stock in order to comply with this, with the requirements here. There is nothing that says if you're an existing operator, you're not entitled. What it means is that you have to do everything that's in here. You have to create new rooms, 1,000 new rooms. And so the point is about growth, and you can't grow by simply circling back on yourself. Existing investors who we value highly and who have contributed to the growth of the sector have certainly also benefited under existing incentive regimes, and they have benefited already or continue to benefit depending on the window within which they entered that regime. So the point is not to try to amend this so that what exists already continues to have more government support in this particular way. It's about growth. And I think that point bears no further emphasis than to say that this administration is serious about growth, and we clearly understand it better than others who have not achieved it. Regarding the matter of there only being one resort per geographic area that's defined. And again, that policy has not changed. And that was something that came out of the intensive policy consultations that took place island-wide. Everyone remembers the raging debate and consultations that took place prior to the passing of the Principal Act. And that policy has not changed. And essentially, the heart of that concept is that Jamaica would not seek to promote a proliferation of casinos in Jamaica. There would be limited existence of casinos. There would be exclusivity granted to ensure that the investment would be feasible, so that you attract the investment, but also that you're not creating a proliferation because of the very social concerns that have been raised. So this is, so far as we understand it and has been assessed, one of the best balances created in terms of a hybrid arrangement. So this is to be a highly regulated regime, not just an integrated resort if you are going to have a casino added in your, as part of your development. On the matter of the status of the Commission, an executive director has already been appointed, has been in place for some time. A board is also in place, and there are several, all of the posts have been approved, but all have not been filled because there is no casino operating. So you would have people in place, hired and sitting down, not doing anything because there is nobody yet to regulate. The actual application process is managed by the Ministry of Finance, and that will continue to be the case. Such work has had to be conducted in respect of, for example, this review that has been taking place, any changes that are to take place, and the readiness to start is undertaken by the persons already in place, but that is being ramped up in anticipation of there being approved resorts going forward. And I understand there was a question regarding the number of orders that can be issued. A question was about licenses, but this does not provide for licenses. It provides for orders. The Act provides for a maximum of 3. One had been issued in 2015, so that would, it sounds like there would be 2 more that could be issued under this regime unless there is an amendment to that matter. In respect of the process being open to public tender, absolutely. A request for proposal will be published through the usual means in the media so that applications can be invited from interested developers, and that is not a new process to Jamaica. It will therefore be managed appropriately as such. On the question of the, and just again, the Commission shares offices with the BGLC at this time on Hagley Park Road, so as to minimize expenses, and that will continue until such time as it may need any other arrangement to be made. I also wanted to raise the point in respect of AML and CFT. I mean, this is a part of the very stringent management of the application process and why it resides in the Ministry of Finance, because it is critical that we make sure that development of this area, of this sector, will not impinge upon our ratings. You know, we have an action plan in place, we're committed to it, and there's a lot of work that is consistently being done by the relevant units in finance and the other relevant ministries, departments and agencies. So the operators of such hotels and developments would not only be subject to POCA, but they would also be subject to the relevant MDAs. I want to add as well that the Casino Gaming Commission is a designated competent authority under the FID's regime under POCA to ensure that there is compliance within their sector. So there are layers of responsibility to ensure that this is managed in a very stringent way. On the matter of access, there is no nationality that will be banned. Like any all-inclusive resort, the integrated resorts will only be accessible by registered guests, and the casinos on their properties will only be accessible by registered guests of the integrated resort. So you won't be able to decide that you're going to just pop in to go to the casino, you don't want to stay and you don't want to eat at the restaurant. No, access will be limited to persons who are registered guests at these resorts. So again, I want to just reiterate that the amendments proposed today were the result of intensive review and market research, ensuring that we made those the appropriate adjustments to generate investment. We know that the market is ripe for our picking at this time, and we are going to, the relevant agencies are going to work very hard to make sure that we're able to convert these opportunities into increased revenue for the benefit of Jamaica. So I again want to thank everyone for contributing to the debate before us and ask for second reading of the bill. I thank you, Mr. President.
The question is that the bill presented before us, entitled An Act to Amend the Casino Gaming Act, be read for a second time. Those in favor? Against? Madam Clerk.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Casino Gaming Act, read a second time.
Thank you. The Senate will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole Senate to consider the bill clause by clause. Madam Minister, the statement that we are proposing to take, has it now been prepared for circulation?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, members, I put clause 1, the bill. Those in favor? Against? With the leave of the leaders, I will put clause 2 and 3, 4 and 5. Those in favor? Against? Ayes have it. I put the title and enacting clause. Those in favor? Against? Ayes have it. The question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Those in favor? Against? I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendment. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. President. Might I ask for third reading of the bill?
Let me just do that again. Mic was off. The question is that the bill entitled an act to amend the Casino Gaming Act be read for a third time. Those in favor? Against? Madam Clerk?
A bill entitled an act to amend the Casino Gaming Act read a third time and passed.
Minister, did you want to recommit? Or you want some time?
Yes, if you could just suspend for 5 minutes, is that possible?
Of course it is. Do you want? Is it of the view of the members that you want to take a longer break, or is 5 minutes sufficient? Okay, so the Senate will rise for 15 minutes.
My name is Alfonso Grenell, Managing Director of Grenell's Driving School. June is Road Safety Awareness Month, and today we'll be discussing the proper use of a pedestrian crossing that is not controlled by light. First thing the pedestrian wants to do is to walk up to the pedestrian crossing, raise their hands, and make sure that they are identified by the motorist. Once the motorist identifies them and stop, then they step down into the road and move across the road. So the important thing is that both sides of the traffic must stop before they cross. And they should ensure that, and then they safely walk across the road. And that's how we should cross the road. Make sure that we're seen, make sure the motorists recognize us, and when we are recognized, then we will cross the road. If we do otherwise, we may be hit down by speeding or moving motorists. Very, very important that we obey this rule as we use a pedestrian crossing that is not controlled by a traffic light.
Hello, Jamaica. My name is Patsy Edwards Henry, President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica.
I am Dr. Mindy Fitzenley, President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association.
And I am Dr. Andrew Manning, President of the Medical Association of Jamaica.
COVID-19 has wreaked havoc on our families, our communities, our livelihoods, and our general way of life.
Globally, over 100 million persons have been infected and more than 2 million have died.
Here in Jamaica, over 21,000 persons have been infected and close to 400 have died.
Thankfully, through proactive action, we now have access to a safe COVID-19 vaccine.
I will take the vaccine.
I will take the vaccine.
I intend to take the vaccine.
And I encourage all of our frontline workers, and in particular our doctors,
our Medical Association of Jamaica members,
and in particular our nurses, to support me in championing this cause.
Let us protect ourselves and the people of Jamaica.
Vaccinate to stay safe.
This is an important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
3 factors can help you make safe choices when you're in an area of widespread COVID-19 transmission. Consider the location, the proximity to others, and the amount of time you spend there. Where does your activity take place? Open air spaces are always safer than enclosed spaces, particularly if they're small or without fresh air. Proximity to other people is also important. It's safest when there are fewer people around and you can keep more than 1 meter apart. How long does your activity last? The shorter, the better. Think about each of these factors and avoid situations where the risk dial is high. Small or poorly ventilated places and crowds of people for long periods of time. Stay safe. Lower the risk to yourself and others.
Role of the DRF in violence prevention in our society is to mediate. We believe that mediation is really a very good thing in terms of resolving disputes at the court level, at the parish court level, and at the Supreme Court level. Now, let me tell you about some of the matters that may come at the parish court levels. You and I live in a tenement yard and a fight. We report the matter to the police, it goes to court. The judge may say, well, you know, you are just probably a teenager. Go to mediation and see if you can get a settlement. Because if you can agree, then you won't have a criminal record. We urge everyone, all our offices, come to our offices, no matter how simple the matter may be. Come to us, we have persons who are trained.
I've been in agriculture now 10 years in Jamaica and 15 years in Florida. Well, I got in agriculture because I have a deep-seated passion for agriculture, and it's fruitful. I grow Scotch bonnet peppers, sweet peppers, pumpkins, broccoli, and sweet potatoes. Presently, I feed into the hotel chains in Jamaica. With each tourist coming here, everybody has to eat, so it would be best for us to be feeding them with locally grown produce. And this is my passion, and it's very fulfilling. So if you follow the guidelines and you have a true passion for agriculture, from the seed to harvesting it, it can be fruitful, and you will put in a position where tourism is working for you.
No one is immune to mental illness. Your age, race, gender, social class, or economic status is no match for addictive behaviors, anxiety or eating disorders, depression or schizophrenia. What is having a good social support system. As the saying goes, in times of test, family is best. Unfortunately, many are denied the benefit of the support of family and friends because of stigma and an oppressive silence around mental illness. Let's put an end to the silence.
Speak up.
Speak now.
End the stigma.
Share your story.
End the stigma.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The Forestry Department is leading the implementation of the National Tree Planting Initiative, which seeks to plant 3 million trees in 3 years, one for each Jamaican plus a little extra for good measure. So I'm inviting each Jamaican to visit our nurseries across the island and collect your tree seedling and make your mark towards this great goal for Jamaica.
The following is brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with kind support of NIA and USAID.
Criminal minds think they are cunning. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency have them running. Your friend a shout, come scam. Take time running, now we ready for the ops. Drive up on your block, step out now we black side, but take about your laptop. Pull up every lock, no evidence to drop. We put it in a cuffs and now we have the underground. In your system, you better look out for. When you move corrupt, better look out for. They say you get wet, look out for. Look out for, look out for. From your system, you better look out for. When you move corrupt, better look out for. They say you get wet, look out for. Look out for, look out for.
The proceeding was brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with the kind support of NIA and USAID.
MOCA, MOCA.
Come with us to Lime Tree Lane, where life is sometimes sour, but sometimes sweet.
Oh, I was in the bar yesterday, trying to convert over 2 man. I mean, and make mistake and bungs down them drinks. And the other one said to me, why if you right enough and you cut it off, boss? And same time, the two of them just hold me down and cut the hand.
Have a laugh and settle into Lime Tree Lane. Join us Mondays to Fridays at 7 a.m.
And when they done their feet on you. You understand me? No wonder the boy was having a high. No, come back here. Where do you think you're going?
Let me go check in bed. Only on PBCJ, the People's Station.
Hi, I'm Eliana Charles, and I'm here with my father, Pernell Charles, and today we will be planting a guava tree.
And that's our favorite fruit, and we got this tree from the Forestry Department. So, let's get it done. Some of the tools you need when planting a tree: a fork, you'll need a shovel, a good old machete.
And you need a watering can.
The first thing we're going to do is we dig a hole and make sure that it is deep enough, wide enough to fit the tree. And we're going to keep, of course, our soil so we can backfill the hole. We have planted our guava tree, and we invite the entire Jamaica to plant a tree. Plant a tree,
protect Jamaica,
and preserve the planet.
This is Iroy. Iroy is a born Jamaican.
Wagwan!
Iroy and the other Jamaican iguanas live in the Hellshire Hills Forest in St. Catherine, Jamaica. Jamaican iguanas live in Jamaica and nowhere else in the world.
Big up me crew!
Iroy and his friends eat fruit, flowers and leaves and are not harmful to people.
Me yam the seed. I poop it out. Look on that. New trees them out.
The Jamaican iguana was thought to be extinct.
Dead and gone.
But in 1990, a small group was found living in the Hellshire Hills. Thanks to many scientists from Jamaica and around the world, their numbers have grown. The Jamaican iguana is one of the biggest conservation success stories in the world. But their survival is still threatened by mongoose, wild pigs, stray cats and dogs that attack them, their babies, and their nests. People also destroy their forests by cutting down trees for charcoal.
People, no trouble me. Please, just help me protect me and my yard.
For more information on how to help the Jamaican iguana, log on to www.jamentrust.org.
Watch Inside Sports, Saturdays at 5 p.m. on PBCJ, the People's Station.
My people, my people, my people. Many of us feel concerned or overwhelmed by what is happening with the novel coronavirus around the world and here in Jamaica. It is no different for our beautiful children. Parents and caregivers, I beg you to take the time to talk with your children about how they are feeling and how they can protect themselves. Guess what? We have some tips for you. Help your children not to panic. You know, sometimes when children hear the word corona or COVID-19, they panic, they get worried, and that's okay. But it's up to us to help settle their nerves. First thing we need to do is be calm as parents and adults. Stop. Breathe in, breathe out. And now is the time to start the conversation with your children to find out what they've heard or what they know. And then use age-appropriate language that your children will understand so that they can explore their fears and to comfort them. Also remind your children that most people who get COVID-19 do not get very sick and they do recover.
Encourage your children to get the facts. There's a lot of fake news and wrong information out there, so please encourage your children to get the facts. Now, your older children especially who are exposed to social media, they could be exposed to a lot of wrong information. So hear what? If your child asks you a question and you do not know the answer, now is not the time to guess. What you're going to do is you're going to check reliable sources. You're going to check the World Health Organization. You're going to check PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization. You're going to check the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And of course, you're going to check UNICEF. They are good sources of information. Check them, and you and your child can learn. No, it's not about the doom and gloom alone, you know. I want you to share the good stories too. The stories of triumphs, the stories of our health sector workers who are on the front lines ensuring that we bring this pandemic under control. Listen, in every obstacle you have opportunity. This is a good time for some family time getting closer, all right?
Make sure your children know how to protect themselves. So talk to them about 6 simple steps. Number 1, wash their hands. And I don't just mean talk to them, but show them how to do it the right way. They're to wash their hands frequently with soap and water for about 20 seconds. Or if you're like my 8-year-old daughter, she'll tell you the length of time it takes you to sing the ABCs. Whatever you do though, make it fun, especially if you have younger children. Make up a dance, make up a song, just have them washing their hands as much as possible. Number 2, they are to cover those mouths and noses if they're coughing or sneezing. And they should do it with a bent elbow, or as I like to call it, the dab. Or they can go ahead and use a tissue, just that as long as they throw away that tissue in the bin. Remind them they're not to leave it on any surfaces or areas. Number 3, and this is an important one, avoid close contact with persons who might have the cold or flu-like symptoms, but also remind your children not to be unkind to those persons who might be sick. We want to show them love and respect in all of this. Number 4, and I know this is a hard one, but remind your children to avoid touching their face as much as possible. Number 5, use or create new ways of greetings. You heard me. No hugs, no handshakes, no high fives. How about those air hugs, those namastes, the foot knocking, the wagwan? Whatever you do, keep your distance. Number 6, advise your children to tell you or another adult right away if they are feeling sick or displaying symptoms such as coughing, shortness of breath, or fever. Just let them know that this is extremely important so that you can get them the medical help they really need. Now listen, the coronavirus thing, it's a new issue. for both adults as well as the children. So while you're teaching them, be patient. Make sure that it is conversational. Make sure you're holding a reasoning. This is not a beat and teach kind of situation, all right? And the most important thing for you to remember is that children live what they learn. So while you're teaching them, you have to be doing it as well. So just stay safe.
My job is to ensure that every man, woman and child maintain good health at all times.
Our primary function is to ensure that government services are delivered effectively and efficiently.
We are building forward
together.
Hello. Today we're going to be making breakfast and preparing a lunchbox for school. Let's start with some sugar and salt and wash it down with a nice big glass of more sugar. And now for the lunchbox. Let's put in saturated fat, more salt, and sugar. Foods high in salt, fats, and sugar increase the risk of hypertension, obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Now more than ever, we have the right to know what's in our food. Give us warning labels on the front of our food packages.
My name is Alfonso Grenell, Managing Director of Grenell's Driving School. June is Road Safety Awareness Month. Today we'll be looking at the importance use of the safety belt. Many persons call it seat belt, but in defensive driving we call it safety belt because it's meant for the safety of the occupants. In a crash, we actually have 3 stages.
Prime Ministers.
Members should have heard the question. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you, Minister. Proceed.
Minister, any the copies that we were waiting on?
Yes, sir. Are they?
We don't have any.
They're coming. They're coming. All right. No, man, they're coming. They're coming. Normally that's, yes, all right. Mr. President, Jamaica, the Caribbean community, and the wider international community have been profoundly shocked and saddened by the tragic news of the assassination of the President of the Republic of Haiti, His Excellency Jovenel Moïse, on Wednesday, the 7th of July, 2021. We join with the international community and with Haitians at home and in the diaspora in wishing Lady Moïse a full and speedy recovery, even as we mourn with her on the death of her husband. Prime Minister Holness has conveyed his own deepest condolences to the family of President Moïse on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica. And Jamaica condemns this heinous incident and stands in solidarity and support with our neighbour and fellow CARICOM country, Haiti, and its people, including, of course, members of the Haitian diaspora in Jamaica. Mr. President, the Caribbean region's engagement with Haiti is as long as the reality of our geography and history dictate, through various administrations and crises. Since the emergence of this most recent electoral crisis over a year and a half ago, relating to the term of office of the President and the holding of elections, CARICOM, especially at the level of heads of government, has consistently sought to engage Haiti. The situation has also been discussed on several occasions, including at the intersessional meeting of conference held in February 2021, where it was agreed that an expert group should be established to prepare a report for the attention of heads. At the 42nd Conference of the Heads of Government, held from the 56th of July, so earlier this week, Heads of Government received an update on the findings of the CARICOM expert group and issued a statement on the situation in Haiti. The assassination of the President has precipitated another level to the crisis, and heads of government have expressed that calm and security are paramount at this time. A special emergency meeting of CARICOM heads of government was convened on the very day of the assassination to discuss the tragic developments in Haiti. At this meeting, heads of government reaffirmed their willingness to engage stakeholders in arriving at an agreed solution. CARICOM also agreed its willingness to play a lead role in facilitating a process of national dialogue and negotiation to address the current crisis. As a mark of respect, all CARICOM member states and the CARICOM Secretariat are to fly, and indeed are flying, national flags as well as the CARICOM standard at half-mast for a period of 3 days, commencing on the 7th of July 2021. The government of Jamaica has joined member countries of CARICOM in flying the national flag at half-mast. Additionally, flags will be flown at half-mast on the day of President Moïse's funeral, which is still to be announced. Mr. President, the interim Prime Minister, Minister Claude Joseph, has indicated that the electoral timetables which had been previously announced and which were supported by CARICOM and the wider international community will be followed. We will continue to monitor developments in this regard. Members of the Caribbean community, including Jamaica, have also been working through the OAS and the United Nations to ensure that attention remains focused on the electoral crisis in Haiti, that Haiti remains a part of deliberations, and that there is no outside imposition. We all acknowledge that much remains to be done, and CARICOM is committed to remaining engaged thereon. In this regard, the leaders of the region continue their oversight of the community's attention and response with due regard to the sovereignty of Haiti and the principles on which the community is built. It is appreciated that the circumstances in our sister island, its systems and institutions, which have been the subject of international assistance, continue to require support. In that context, I highlight for mention, Mr. President, the assistance provided by the United Nations, the OAS, the core group, consisting of representatives from Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, Spain, the EU, the USA, and special representatives of the UN Secretary General and the OAS during the period of uncertainty. The OAS undertook a Good Offices mission to Haiti from the 8th to 10th of June 2021 on the invitation of President Moïse. And this Good Offices mission, which incorporated CARICOM representation, was an inclusive fact-finding gesture which initiated dialogue among key stakeholders such as government, opposition, business, religious, and civil society in order to seek to find a viable solution to the ongoing political situation in Haiti. We note that the initial recommended steps in finding this solution was the naming by President Moïse of a new Prime Minister, and this was done in the naming of Mr. Ariel Henry, and day before the tragic incident occurred. We note reports that the interim Prime Minister, Dr. Claude Joseph, declared a 15-day state of siege. This commenced on July 7, 2021, and following an extraordinary meeting of the Council of Ministers. The state of siege, and we note that under Haitian law there are 3 levels of emergency, siege, and war, to be enacted during times of crisis. They have enacted the state of siege, which means that all borders are closed and martial law is temporarily imposed with the military and police empowered to enforce the law. It has also been reported that Haiti remains in a state of relative calm. As the people of Haiti come to terms with the unfolding developments, Mr. President, we urge the relevant stakeholders to remain calm and to promote a sense of peace, to protect and preserve lives and livelihoods, as well as the maintenance of law and order. Jamaica stands in full support and solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Haiti during this period. We continue to monitor the developments and remain willing to render assistance as we are able. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Minister. Senator Bunting.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I go to the questions on the minister's statement, I assume you'll exercise discretion to allow me, on behalf of the opposition in the Senate, to join the government in expressing our condemnation of the assassination of the President of the Republic of Haiti, His Excellency Jovenel Moïse. We also wish to join the government in wishing Lady Moïse a full and speedy recovery, even as we mourn. The leader of the opposition had separately issued a statement expressing condolences, but I think it's important for the record of Parliament to show that as well, and those of us in the Senate. Mr. President, like others of us who were born in pre-independence in Jamaica, I didn't learn much in school about the complex history of Haiti. Those still the days when we were focused on European history, and I think the Gleaner Geography and History of Jamaica was the text that we used. But since my first visit to Haiti about 30 years ago, it has been a source of great interest for me. And perhaps because it was at the time when it was just after the period between the election of President Aristide, of Jean-Claude Aristide, and his inauguration. And you will recall, Mr. President, he was an overwhelmingly popular candidate who had been swept to power by the Lavalas movement. And there was such a great enthusiasm and optimism in Haiti at the time, despite the crushing poverty. But there was great optimism and enthusiasm of the future under the first freely elected democratic president. As we all know, that was, although he embarked enthusiastically upon reforms, that was not allowed to continue, as there was a coup. And since then, Haiti has perhaps lived up, in some sense, or developments in Haiti have lived up to the stereotypes, the dictators and political dysfunction, the poverty and adversity, the vulnerability to natural disaster flowing from that poverty. But truthfully, much of the narrative that we get in the international press is steeped in racism and masks the important truth that Haiti has for centuries been traumatized by European colonialism and more recently by American imperialism. Many forget that the US occupied Haiti between 1950 and 1934 and contributed to the political instability since that time. But why is it important for us, particularly as Jamaicans, to do whatever we can to assist them, not just in this time, but generally speaking? And I think Frederick Douglass, the great black orator and abolitionist, said it best when in 1893 he said, and I quote, "We should not forget that the freedom you and I enjoy today is largely due to the brave stand taken by the black sons of Haiti 90 years ago." Striking for their freedom, they struck for the freedom of every black person in the world. End quote. And so, Mr. President, I think we have a great obligation to try and do whatever is in our power to assist Haiti in this time. And I I know this has been a source of frustration to CARICOM and to the United Nations, to the OAS over decades. But as I turn now specifically to the minister's statement, which again speaks to the multilateral efforts which we intend to be a part of, I have two specific questions. The first is with respect to your sentence that Jamaica will be working through the OAS and United Nations to ensure that attention remains focused on the electoral crisis in Haiti. And I understand. But the truth of the matter is we have, what I think we have learned from Haiti, that elections by themselves are not sufficient, because we have had a number of elections. But the institutional structures of government have just not been there to follow through on the elections, or for the elections to lead to true development taking place after elections. And invariably, in a short time, there is some sort of return to some dysfunctionality of the government, and the incumbent, whoever they have been, gets mired once again in the complexities of not just the constitution and the governance arrangements, but the culture around democracy. So I understand the focus on the electoral crisis, but I'd like to ask the minister to say what beyond the election or the next election for president and parliament are we looking at in terms of support for building institutions in Haiti that can give meaning to democracy beyond an election? That's the first question. The second question, as pointed out in an op-ed by former Ambassador Curtis Ward, I think it was in today's paper, is that Haiti was part, or the president of Haiti was part of the infamous Mar-a-Lago 5 that included, I believe, the Bahamas, St. Lucia, I forget the others, Bahamas, St. Lucia, but unfortunately Jamaica was one of those. And it has served to really divide CARICOM, undermine the OAS. The OAS was described as feckless. And so what I really want to ask the minister now, in light of Jamaica's previous role in doing the bidding of the Trump administration, does it have the moral authority to lead any process or to co-lead any process in CARICOM to solve the current crisis in Haiti?
Thank you, Senator Mountain. Minister.
Mr. President, you allow such latitude in the asking of questions. It is hard to determine where the prose starts and the question, or rather the prose ends and the question begins. But I will attempt to address what I understand to be the core of what has been asked by Senator Bunting. Mr. President, the matter of engagement with Haiti is clearly a complex one, and the issues that Haiti has been addressing over the past several years really go far beyond and could not be dealt with in a ministerial statement. The statement is accordingly focused on addressing what is at the very core of what is now being experienced. The matter is not, the matter of institutional reconstruction is a little different from the fact that they need to renew the political infrastructure, those institutions. It's not simply a matter of having a presidential election. They need to have local government elections. They need to have their Senate reconstituted. They need to do several things. And a constitutional reform process had been put underway by President Moise. It is this process of reform during a process of great upheaval which has garnered great focus, on one hand, to provide the support that would allow the re-establishment of strong political institutions that can maintain stability for Haiti and take and lead the country into a new phase of operations. This was the vision. This was the understanding of the aim of the Moise presidency, and it has not manifested itself. But it was supported by the international community, who aided in by providing technical expertise, etc. And Jamaica engages in the multilateral fora on these issues. We participated in the Good Offices. Jamaica didn't go on the Good Offices mission. CARICOM chose representation, and we were represented, I believe, by the ambassador of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The heads agreed in February that we would have an expert group established, which was established and presented its report just this week. And I tell you, it continues to be very disconcerting that on Wednesday morning we were actually all waiting, as I attended the meeting with Prime Minister Holness, of course, for President Moise to join us in that meeting, for us to discuss not only the expert report but related matters, and he was unable to attend. And so the proximity of the issue continues to, I think, impact heavily on heads. But Jamaica has sought to engage bilaterally, not only in the margins of CARICOM, but through myself and the former foreign minister, and the foreign minister prior to Minister Edmond, on various technical cooperation efforts, not only on matters, and we've offered in respect of electoral, but we've also have arrangements pending in terms of security, in terms of border control. We are the subject of a multi-country cooperation agreement supported by the EU. We work with them on APIS and the passenger travel matters, and we've had other broader discussions about various areas. So Jamaica has always made itself available and has reached out. But when your institutions are not optimized, I will say, it makes it difficult to follow through on certain issues, on concretizing agreements, on implementing programs. And quite frankly, at this point, really, the focus has been on getting to the end of the electoral renewal process in order to have a fully functioning administration in Haiti again. And that is what the Haitian administration, as it currently exists, is now working towards as well. That is the reality. The question of moral authority, I don't think, I find the tone and the content of your question objectionable, quite frankly. Jamaica was part of a meeting with the former President of the United States of America, along with other members of the Caribbean community. Our policy has always been to engage with the United States across administrations. They are the home to our largest diaspora. They are our largest trading partner. And to disengage at any point has never been in our interests. So as to whether our presence in a meeting at which President Moise was also present would undermine our moral authority to continue to have discussions with Haiti or other stakeholders, to me, just, sort of smacks of headline seeking.
The minister, Mr. President, obviously forgets that that meeting was a reward for the support in the actions against Venezuela, one that caused them to be described as Trump's hapless sycophants by Ambassador Ward. But I understand her difficulty in responding to that question. But the final question I have is, we learned from the BBC this morning that the team of mercenaries, or that the assassination was carried out by a team of mercenaries, apparently foreign mercenaries, at least 20-odd, at least 6 of them identified as former Colombian military and 2 United States citizens. But the minister made no mention of this in her statement. I'm just wondering if there is any information that the minister may have that she could share as to, at this point, I am assuming that through diplomatic and international channels she would have more information than is available to just the media generally. Does the minister have any idea? Does the minister, can the minister confirm the media reports that we've been hearing, and if there is any indication? The 26 mercenaries is a mission that would have required tremendous logistical and financial resources to mount. So we just want to ask the minister if there is any information as to who or what country or what organization. Was it a terrorist organization? Was it who was the source of the logistics and Is there any information?
Sorry, Senator Bunting. I really don't think that the minister is going to have a difficulty answering that question, and I don't think she needs your assistance, Are you complete, Senator Bunting? Minister, would you answer, please?
Yes, Mr. President, the answer is no. I do not have any such information, and I will use the word such. But I do want to just take the opportunity on while I'm on my feet, Mr. President, just to address the precursor to that winding question, Mr. President. Jamaica was not rewarded for any position that it has taken on the international scene. The fact that Senator Bunting and Ambassador Ward may have a perspective on the circumstances in Venezuela, it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Jamaica has always been committed to engaging and ensuring that we are working in the best interest of Jamaica's national development, and we continue to do so.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Minister, given the fact that the Haitian authorities have indicated that the assassins were foreigners, and there have been calls for the International Commission to investigate the assassination of the president, could you indicate to us whether the government of Jamaica support the need for International Commission to carry out such investigation?
Mr. President, I'm not aware of the matter to which Senator Brown has referred. What I am aware is that the Haitian government has requested the support of the United States government to provide independent investigation of the circumstances leading to the assassination of the president. That is what I am aware of.
Second question, sir. Minister, given the fact that it is accepted that the assassins were foreigners, And CARICOM has indicated a willingness to assist Haiti. Does that willingness include the deployment of the regional security forces?
Security forces can only be deployed on the request of a sovereign state. And I think that while people speak about the sovereignty of Haiti in one hand, they seem to conveniently forget it in others. Haiti has not requested any military support from CARICOM. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister?
Mr. President, it is not intended to do any further business today. Might I ask that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed?
Members should have heard the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Against? This Honourable Senate now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed. I thank you all for a fruitful day.